Chapter 688. A smile was outlined on the corner of Qin Xiaoyang's mouth, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Some time ago, he stayed in Blue City for a while in order to establish the Wenyu Media Company with the purpose of unearthing several outstanding students from the Regal Classical Music Academy. As a result, he accidentally met Zhang Zitao in Blue City, and his friend suffered a small loss because of a small conflict. Even he was threatened a few times in a low-key manner. He suddenly met Zhang Zitao in Demonic City. Although he showed a very fearful look on the surface, he secretly decided that if this guy was arrogant and despotic again, he would deal with him for real. Who would have thought that not only did this guy not provoke him again, but he also showed that he was too lazy to bicker with him, and didn't even have the time to pay attention to him. After seeing Zhang Zitao, Jia followed his line of sight and landed on Shuiyu, who was quietly reading a book. Despite being a woman, she was still amazed by Shuiyu's appearance and was subdued by her temperament. She finally understood why Zhang Zitao didn't seem to see her even though she was standing in front of him. Zhang Zitao, is that Miss your friend? Why don't you introduce her to us? Jia was originally pursued by Zhang Zitao. Although she didn't like to pay attention to him, she actually enjoyed the feeling of being pursued. But now that Zhang Zitao was looking for another target, it made her feel a bit sour and uncomfortable. You're so annoying. Zhang Zitao shifted his gaze and glared at Jia. But when he saw Jia's appearance, his voice suddenly came to an abrupt halt. He quickly glanced at Shuiyu with a guilty conscience and hurriedly stood up with a smile, saying, "Little Jia, how come it's you? I was thinking about something just now and didn't notice." Cough, cough. Jia glared at him and sneered. "I think you've been hooked by that belle, haven't you? Speaking of which, that belle is indeed outstanding. She has a devastatingly beautiful appearance and a temperament like an orchid in a secluded valley. Even though she's sitting there quietly, the curves of her figure are very obvious. It's no wonder that she can make you dizzy." Zhang Zitao let out a hollow laugh and explained, "I don't know her, little Jia. You're also very outstanding in my eyes." Jia quickly waved her hand and said, "Come on. I'm not interested in you. If you can stop pestering me in the future, I really want to help you get that beauty." "All right, Xiaoyang has just arrived in Shanghai, and we have things to discuss. You can enjoy your beauty by yourself," Qin Xiaoyang said with a faint smile. "Young Master Zhang, then we won't accompany you." Although Zhang Zitao was a playboy and loved everyone he saw, in his opinion, Jia was also his sweetheart. Now that she was dating another man alone, it made him very unhappy. Almost as soon as Qin Xiaoyang's voice faded away, he immediately said, "Wait." Qin Xiaoyang asked, "Is there anything else, young Master Zhang?" Zhang Zitao frowned and said, "Who the hell are you? How do you know Xiao Jia?" Qin Xiaoyang couldn't help laughing and said, "Didn't I tell you when we met in Blue City? I'm just a small character who runs a small business and has a little money at home. Compared to you, young Master Zhang, it simply pales in comparison." Zhang Zitao's brows furrowed deeper. The more modest Qin Xiaoyang was, the more he felt that Qin Xiaoyang was not simple. It was because he knew Jia's character. She was as proud as a phoenix with a cocked tail. She wouldn't even look at an ordinary character. However, he was very proud inside and naturally didn't want the woman he fancied to be poached by others in Shanghai. Hence, his expression turned cold and he said in a deep voice, "I don't care what your identity is, but stay away from Jia. Else, I don't mind fulfilling the promise I made in Blue City." Qin Xiaoyang shot him a deep look and suddenly said with a smile, "I now understand why you kicked an iron plate some time ago. There's a saying in the art of war. Know the enemy and know yourself, and you'll be victorious in every battle. You haven't even figured out the identity of others, yet you dare to provoke them arrogantly. Aren't you afraid of courting disaster to your family?" Zhang Zitao was shocked inwardly. He faintly felt that Qin Xiaoyang's last sentence was somewhat familiar. After a while, he suddenly recalled that he had provoked Tan Xiao, who also said the same thing. Could it be? Zhang Zitao's expression changed slightly, and he blurted out, "You know Tan Xiao?" Qin Xiaoyang laughed involuntarily and said, "Tan Xiao is the idol of all the aristocratic young masters and young masters in the imperial capital. How could I not know him?" "What? From what you're saying, You also know Tan Xiao. Zhang Zitao's heart tightened, and he asked in a deep voice, "What's your relationship with Tan Xiao? Who are you?" At the side, Anijia looked at Zhang Zitao with a pitiful expression and smilingly said, "As far as I know, you went to the imperial capital last year, and even bragged to your scoundrel friends after you came back, saying that you got the qualification to enter the Kanda Club, and spent a lot of money there for several days. Don't you know that he's the owner of the Kanda Club?" What? Zhang Zitao felt as if he had been struck by a bolt of lightning. His whole body was numb and unbearable. Kanti Club? The Kanti Club, the most prestigious club in the imperial capital, the club that countless hedonistic sons of the aristocratic families in the country dreamed of entering? He's the big boss? Zhang Zitao finally understood what it meant to play the pig to eat the tiger. The person who could establish the Kanti Club, whether it was in terms of wealth, status, or social network, was enough to crush him. His father had a very high status in Shanghai, and his family could be regarded as a real aristocratic family. But Qin Xiaoyang smiled indifferently. He took out his business card and handed it to Zhang Zitao, saying, "I know Tan Xiao because we're friends and business partners. If I hadn't come to Shanghai to look for him, I wouldn't have dared to ignore the threat of a local bully like you. I wouldn't have dared to easily set foot in Shanghai." Zhang Zitao wanted to cry. He didn't expect that his luck would be so bad that even a fart would hit his heel. He had provoked Tan Xiao before, but today, he even provoked Qin Xiaoyang, a ruthless character who played the pig to eat the tiger. The only thing that made him feel somewhat fortunate was that he didn't take what happened in Blue City to heart. Otherwise, if he had just seen Qin Xiaoyang and directly made things difficult for him, he was afraid that it would have caused him big trouble. However, in front of Anijia, he was a male chauvinist and didn't want to bow his head and admit his mistake. He could only bite the bullet and say, "Even if you're the owner of the Kanti Club, I won't change my original intention. Don't have any ideas about Anijia. She's bound to be my woman in the future. As for Tan Xiao, he's my uncle." "Uncle?" Qin Xiaoyang stared blankly for a moment before a strange expression appeared on his face. Although he got the news that Zhang Zitao had kicked an iron plate some time ago and provoked a powerful character, he didn't know who the person was. But Tan Xiao's surname was Tang, and Zhang Zitao's surname was Zhang. How did they become uncle and nephew? Could it be that Tan Xiao and Zhang Yueming became sworn brothers? Anijia was also dumbfounded at this time. She naturally knew Tan Xiao. Last year, there was a blind bitch who slapped her. Tan Xiao was involved in that incident, and she also deeply remembered Tan Xiao at that time. She didn't expect that Tan Xiao was actually so powerful. It should just be someone with the same name, right? Anijia thought for a moment, and then her eyes fell on Zhang Zitao. She faintly had an illusion that the current Zhang Zitao seemed to be a little different from before. For example, when they first met, he didn't make things difficult for Qin Xiaoyang. And now, he knew that Qin Xiaoyang's identity was extraordinary, but he still didn't want to bow down. Could it be? Does he love me with all his heart? This idea sprouted in Anijia's mind, and suddenly her view of Zhang Zitao changed a little. Although she didn't have much feelings for Zhang Zitao, if he could really mature, she could choose to be friends with him. In the corner of the cafe, Shuiyu put down the book in her hand, picked up the bag she had just bought, and was ready to leave. Although she had just heard the conversation between Zhang Zitao and the others, and also heard the name Tan Xiao, she didn't want to talk. In her opinion, Tan Xiao was very outstanding, and it was normal for more people to know him. Zhang Zitao had been paying attention to Shuiyu. When he found that Shuiyu wanted to leave, he was a little confused. After weighing in his heart for a moment, he decided to go out with her. So he said, "Little Jia, I have other things to do, so I'll go first. I'll look for you another day." Anijia was also aware that Shuiyu wanted to leave. Now that she heard Zhang Zitao's words, the idea of thinking highly of Zhang Zitao vanished in an instant. A look of disgust flashed in her eyes as she waved and said, "Just go and do your thing. Don't worry about us. I have a lot of things to do recently, so you don't need to look for me." Zhang Zitao acted as if he didn't hear her words. He gave Qin Xiaoyang a warning look, and then chased after Shuiyu to leave the cafe. After walking for 100 meters, he sped up and stopped Shuiyu saying, "Hello, I'm Zhang Zitao. May I know how to address you, miss? Shuiyu frowned and stopped. From the conversation between Zhang Zitao, and Ijia, and Qin Xiaoyang, she could tell that Zhang Zitao was a relatively fickle man. She didn't like such men. However, for the sake of Tan Xiu's face, she lightly said, "My name is Shuiyu. You can call me Auntie." Auntie? Zhang Zitao was dumbfounded. Wasn't this taking advantage of him? He hesitated and asked, "Why do I call you that?" "I'm Tan Xiu's woman," said Shuiyu. "What?" Zhang Zitao was dumbfounded. He felt as if he was struck by lightning once again. He had fantasized about Shuiyu's countless identities. He even imagined that such a woman already had a boyfriend or was already married. But never once did he dream that she turned out to be Tan Xiu's woman. "You call Tan Xiu uncle, so naturally you should call me auntie." Shuiyu nodded. "I'm going to Blue Star Villa Complex later. Do you want to go with me?" Fuck his grandpa. Zhang Zitao gloomily roared inwardly. With an unnatural look on his face, he desperately shook his head and said, No. I still have other things to do, so I won't go to Blue Star Villa Complex. If you see Tan Xiu, please say hello to him for me." Having said that, it was as if he had fled with his tail between his legs. The third chapter is over. Weekly begging for a monthly vote. Chapter 689. Since it was Monday, Tan Xiu attended all 3 classes of the day. Although he had learned all the knowledge in the books by himself, he didn't feel like bickering with Han Qinggu since she didn't want to see him play truant. As the bell rang for the last class of the day, Yu Kai, who was sitting next to Tan Xiu, came over and whispered, "What's your plan for tonight? Do you want to go bowling with us?" With something weighing on his mind, Tan Xiu shook his head and said, "I have something to do tonight, so I'm afraid I can't go. Maybe another day. I'll invite you guys to dinner when I'm not busy." Yu Kai knew Tan Xiu's identity and also understood that he was busy, so he nodded and said, "Then be careful when you go out. Our Shanghai hasn't been peaceful recently. Several sensational murder cases have happened in just a few days. You're the big boss, so why don't you take some bodyguards with you?" "Several murder cases? What kind of murder cases are they?" Tan Xiu was surprised. "How come I only heard that 4 bar girls were killed?" Yu Kai lowered his voice and said, "The murder of those 4 bar girls is indeed only one of them. The other 2 murder cases happened in Fanyu District and Jingning District respectively. I heard that even police officers were killed in Jingning District, so it's definitely a crime committed by some outlaws. However, the police blockade is very tight now. If it wasn't for my dad calling me and telling me not to go out of the campus and pay attention to my safety, I wouldn't have known about it." Tan Xiu nodded. He believed that the other 2 murder cases shouldn't be something special. Otherwise, the Everlasting Feast Hall's intelligence personnel would have already told him about it. As the teacher left, Tan Xiu handed the book to Yu Kai to help him take it back, and then walked out of the campus alone. Although the research equipment needed by Professor Mo had yet to be bought, Tan Xiu still wanted to go and learn about the situation. Honk, honk, a red BMW slowly stopped beside Tan Xiu. As the driver's door opened, Han Qinggu came out and walked toward Tan Xiu. Her walking posture was somewhat wrong, and there was a bloodstain on her snow-white neck. "Do you have time tonight? Let's eat together." Tan Xiu frowned slightly and didn't answer Han Qinggu directly. Instead, he looked her up and down before saying, "Are you injured?" Han Qinggu said indifferently, "I'm fine. I got a little injury during training." Tan Xiu nodded and asked, "What's the matter?" "There's something I want to talk to you about," said Han Qinggu. "Come on, let's find a place to eat and talk." Tan Xiu did not refuse. After sitting in the passenger seat, the red BMW started up, and they quickly left the University of Monster Science and Technology. Tan Xiu, who was in the front passenger seat, looked at Han Qingwu's side face and suddenly said, "Let's go to Paradise Manor for dinner. Your grandfather is there." Han Qingwu was stunned. She turned her head and asked in surprise, "Why is my grandpa in the Paradise Manor? Also, how did you know?" Tan Xiu said, "He suffered some injuries and is recuperating in Paradise Manor. Maybe he'll tell you the cause and effect when we get there." Han Qingwu knew Tan Xiu well. If he didn't want to say it, She wouldn't be able to get the answer even if she broke the sand jar, and asked until the end. When the two of them arrived at Paradise Manor, Tan Xiu directly took Han Qinggu to the Western-style building where Han Jintong was staying. They found that only Shanjena was watching TV in the living room, looking bored. "Where are Professor Mo and Han Jintong?" asked Tan Xiu. Shanjena jumped up and respectfully said, "Mr. Tang, Professor Mo is sorting out the documents in his room, and my teacher is recuperating. Thank you for giving him the holy healing medicine. Most of his injuries have been healed. He said that his injuries will be healed in 2 or 3 days at most." "Call him out," Tan Xiu said. "Tell him that his granddaughter is here." At this time, Han Jintong came out of a door in the corridor. When he came out and saw Han Qinggu, he immediately looked surprised and said, "Why are you here, Han Qinggu?" Han Qinggu already knew that her grandfather was injured, so she strode to Han Jintong's front and asked with a concerned expression, "Grandpa, I heard from Tan Xiu that you were injured. How are your injuries now? What exactly happened? Who injured you?" Han Jintong glanced at Tan Xiu and immediately said with a smile, "My injuries are about to be healed. Don't worry, it's nothing serious. It's a complicated matter, so I'll explain it to you later. That's right, this is Shanjena. She was my student when I was teaching at Yale University abroad." "Nice to meet you, Han Qinggu. I'm Shanjena." "Nice to meet you, Han Qinggu. The professor often mentioned you when I was in M country." Han Qinggu shook hands with her and said, "Hello, Shanjena. My grandpa doesn't want to tell me what happened. Can you tell me?" Shanjena glanced at Han Jintong, and then at Tan Xiu. She found that they looked calm and didn't seem to have any intention to stop her. She immediately said with an apologetic expression, "Actually, the professor was injured to help me. I'm a member of the Bloodkin, and I was hunted and forced to flee to China. I knew that the professor was in China, so I asked him for help, hoping that he could give me a place to hide. But I didn't expect that those assassins would use the soul-concealing fragrance on me, a gas with a strong tracking effect. As a result, my whereabouts were exposed. The professor didn't want to give me up, so we were both injured." "What kind of organization is the Bloodkin?" Han Qinggu had recently learned about some big international organizations, but she had never heard of any organization called the Bloodkin. "The Bloodkin is not an organization, but a collective term for a race," said Shanjena. "The members of the Bloodkin are vampires." Having said that, she spread her wings and bared her fangs. A huge aura was released as she spoke again. "You should have seen it on TV. The vampires in it are our Bloodkin. It's just that it's somewhat different from us." Shock was written all over Han Qingwu's face, but she was not as fearful as Moe. Sensing the powerful aura coming head-on, a huge aura burst out from her body in an instant and rolled over to oppress Shanjena. "What?" Han Jintong, who stood at the side, could sense the huge aura coming from Shanjena and Han Qinggu. A disbelieving expression appeared on his old face, and his eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets. He was naturally aware that Shanjena was very powerful. But when did his precious granddaughter become a powerhouse? "All right." Tan Xiu glanced at them and walked to the sofa to take a seat. Then he said, "Han Qinggu, I didn't expect you to have such a powerful strength in such a short time. You should be at the late stage of qi refining, right? If you keep this pace, perhaps you'll soon be able to compete with Shanjena." "I'm still very weak." Han Qinggu shook her head and said, "Even some martial arts grandmasters can defeat me if I don't use my true essence. Your men did teach me some martial arts skills, but those things are specifically used to kill people and are not suitable for me." Han Jintong finally couldn't bear it anymore. He strode toward Han Qinggu and asked with an excited face, "Han Qinggu, you've become a cultivator?" Han Qinggu nodded and said, "I only know a set of cultivation technique, Grandpa. My strength and speed have improved a lot, but I'm not good at anything else." Han Jintong's old face was full of excitement. He thought that Tan Xiu had imparted a cultivation technique to his granddaughter, so he gratefully said, "Thank you for imparting a cultivation technique to my granddaughter, Mr. Tang. Your kindness to the Han family is greater than the heavens." "What kindness?" Han Qinggu was confused. "Little Wu, Shanjena and I were chased by the enemy and were in a desperate situation. said Han Jintong quickly. If it wasn't for Mr. Tang's sudden arrival to save us, I'm afraid we would have been dead by now. Hence he's my savior. Han Qingwu didn't expect that there was such a hidden story. She opened her mouth and wanted to thank Tan Xiao. However, Tan Xiao didn't give her the opportunity. He stood up and said, "You talk, I'll arrange the dinner." At the door, Mo had just come over and saw Tan Xiao coming out. He quickly said, "Boss Qinan just called. She said that there's a man named Ji Mu in Changxi City who wants to see you. He's now in Shanghai. However, Qinan doesn't dare to make a decision on her own, so she called to ask your opinion." Ji Mu? Tan Xiao recalled that he met Ji Mu when he raced on the Laoshan Highway. After thinking about it, he nodded and said, "Tell Qinan to let Ji Mu come to the Paradise Manor." Understood. Mo agreed and immediately walked into the distance. At this time, Han Qingwu came out of the door and saw that Tan Xiao had lit a cigarette and didn't leave. She came over and said, "Thank you, Tan Xiao." "It's nothing," said Tan Xiao calmly. Han Qingwu was silent for more than 10 seconds. She seemed to have made a decision inwardly and said, "Do you have time the day after tomorrow? Can you come with me to a place?" "Is this the reason why you called me today?" asked Tan Xiao. "Yes." Han Qingwu nodded. "Where?" asked Tan Xiao. "The day after tomorrow is the final of the National Underground Fighting Tournament. There will be a lot of people with excellent kung fu, including some grandmaster experts," said Han Qingwu. "One of them is called Li Tong. He's only about 40 years old, but he has reached the grandmaster realm 5 or 6 years ago. His moves are very tricky and very vicious. In the past, 60% of the boxers who fought with him would be killed by him. 30% would be crippled, and only 10% of the boxers would admit defeat in time to escape. I may be very strong now, but I don't have the confidence to face a real life and death fight. That's why I want you to accompany me. Can I?" "When did you start doing underground fighting?" asked Tan Xiao with a frown. "It's been 2 months, said Han Qingwu while biting her lower lip. Tan Xiao secretly sighed. He didn't expect that Han Qingwu would be so stubborn. She even risked her life to join the underground fighting in order to have formidable strength. He had heard about the underground fighting, where one must sign a life and death contract in every match. Life and death depended on one's own strength in the ring. Chapter 690. Tang Xiao hated Xue Qingcheng, and he also had a complicated feeling about Han Qingwu's identity. However, he didn't want Han Qingwu to die in the boxing ring of the underground market. Instead, he hoped that Han Qingwu could remember what happened in the immortal world, so that the two of them could completely put an end to it. "I'll go," Tan Xiao replied with an expressionless face, and then strode away. He didn't want to stay with Han Qingwu for long, lest his mind would recall the days he spent with Xue Qingcheng in the immortal world from time to time. Those sweet days were now like a sharp knife cutting his heart, making him feel very painful. A few minutes later, Tan Xiao appeared in the Paradise Manor's dining building and randomly chose a window seat on the second floor. He took out a cigarette and lit it with a somewhat blank expression. He couldn't figure out why Han Qingwu wanted him to become stronger. Even if she was still brooding over what happened in Jingmen Island, she wouldn't go so far as to use the underground boxing arena to sharpen herself by hovering on the edge of life and death. What exactly was the reason? Tan Xiao was puzzled no matter how hard he thought about it, and his expression turned more solemn. "What are you thinking about?" A fragrant breeze blew over as Ouyang Lulu, dressed in a black leather coat with her flowing and soft black hair, came over. After taking a seat on the sofa opposite Tan Xiao, she smilingly asked. Tan Xiao's brows loosened as he shook his head and said, "I'm just thinking about something." "Ah, that's right. A friend will be coming over later. His name is Jimu. Tell him to bring him here if he comes." Ouyang Lulu nodded and took out her mobile to make a call. She then propped her chin and looked at Tan Xiao saying, "Tan Xiao, I want you to teach me how to cultivate. You can't favor one and discriminate against the other." Tan Xiao slightly furrowed his brows and asked, "It's not a problem for me to teach you how to cultivate, but why did you say that I'm favoring one and discriminating against the other?" "Ever since I met that vampire, Shanjena, I realized that you know how to cultivate," said Ouyang Lulu. Not only you, but also Gu Xiaoxue. So I called Kong Xia. Why did you call Kong Xia? Tang Xiu stared blankly and asked with a confused expression. Ouyang Lulu snorted and said, Do you think I'm stupid? Other women have an unclear relationship with you, so I don't dare to have any confidence, but I have absolute confidence in Kong Xia. Because if it weren't for her unswerving loyalty to you, would she have gone all out to manage the magnificent Tang Corporation? I even learned that you don't manage the magnificent Tang Corporation's business at all. Kong Xia is in charge of the overall situation. Tan Xiu knew that Ouyang Lulu was smart, but he didn't expect her to be this scheming. She called Kong Xia with the intention of luring her. Otherwise, with Kong Xia's intelligence, it would be impossible for her to get the information out of her so easily. He didn't really understand a woman's thoughts, but he faintly felt the trouble of having too many women. Even if he had not eaten pork, he had seen pigs run. In ancient times, the emperor had 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines. The palace fights of every dynasty and every generation were extremely exciting. Didn't those who had 3 wives and 4 concubines often have their own backyard in trouble? Ouyang Lulu looked at the silent Tan Xiu. Her heart suddenly skipped a beat and she quickly said, Dear, I don't have any intention to complain about you. I won't fight with Kong Xia for any status. As long as you care about me and can think of other women, it's enough for you to think of me. For example, cultivation. Although she said so, Ouyang Lulu's hand under the table was clenched. She knew that Kong Xia should have a very heavy weight in Tan Xiu's heart. Just helping Tan Xiu manage his business empire was something she couldn't compare with. However, she firmly believed that dripping water could penetrate a stone. Even if Tan Xiu's heart was frozen, she could use her love to warm it and brand it on Tan Xiu's heart. Tan Xiu slowly raised his head and said, I'll stay here tonight. Ouyang Lulu's eyes lit up, and she immediately nodded with a happy expression. She understood the meaning behind Tan Xiu's words, and was also aware of the change in Tan Xiu's attitude. In the past, Tan Xiu was very repulsive to her. Even if the two of them had sex a few days ago, she was the one who goaded him. But ever since those 2 days, Tan Xiu had never touched her again. It would be a lie to say that she didn't feel a sense of loss inside. But she also had a reserved side of a woman. She couldn't keep goading him or pestering him. Sure enough, his heart is very soft. If I act too strong, I'll make the chicken fly and the eggs hit, and the loss outweighs the gain. If you want to win a man's heart, you have to use a roundabout way to make him open his heart little by little. Only through continuous deepening of feelings in the future, you will make him completely accept you and can't leave you. Ouyang Lulu's smile was exceptionally brilliant. Her big eyes turned into a crescent moon shape. On a road near the Paradise Manor, a Maserati was roaring as it quickly rushed toward the manor. After Jimu learned from Qi Nan that Tan Xiu was willing to see him, his whole heart was immersed in a pleasantly surprised mood. In these 2 days, even in his dreams, he couldn't forget the scene he saw in Mount Lao that night. He couldn't forget Tan Xiu's immortal-like means. Of course, he also saw the ruthless side of Tan Xiu, who finally ordered his men to kill those 6 monsters. Although he was a bit apprehensive inside, the ruthlessness in his bones made him decide to take a gamble. He wanted to be strong. He wanted to have a terrifying force like Tan Xiu. Even if he could only get the flying method, he was willing to take the risk and try it. Therefore, he had done a lot of homework when he came to Shanghai this time. He had brought a very generous gift. Just the 2 stalks of 1,000-year-old wild ginseng alone cost him hundreds of millions of yuan to buy from a good friend's grandfather. Soon Jimu parked his car in the parking lot of the Paradise Manor. Before he got off, a middle-aged man came over and knocked on the window. You are? Asked Jimu, puzzled. Are you Mr. Jimu? Asked the middle-aged man. Yes, I am, answered Jimu. Hello, Mr. Ji. Our boss asked me to wait for you here. He said that he would immediately take you to see him after you arrived, said the middle-aged man. Is your boss Tan Xiu? Asked Jimu. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment before saying, Mr. Tang should be our boss since he's our boss's man. Who is your boss? Asked Jimu curiously. My boss's surname is Ouyang. He's from Jingmen Island, said the middle-aged man. Jimu knew that there was a Ouyang family in Jingmen Island. He had even seen the young lady of the Ouyang family a few times. Although they didn't have any interaction, the image of the young lady of the Ouyang family was still fresh in his mind. Suddenly, his expression moved as he looked at the middle-aged man and asked, "Is your boss Ouyang Lulu?" The middle-aged man said with a smile, "Mr. Ji, you're right. Our boss is indeed Ouyang Lulu. Do you know our boss?" An inexplicable feeling rose inside Jimu's heart. Ouyang Lulu was a stunning beauty who could almost be compared with Zhang Xinya, the woman he considered to be the most beautiful woman in his life. Never did he expect that she turned out to be Tan Xiu's woman. However, recalling Tan Xiu's identity, he immediately felt relieved. For a terrifying existence like Tan Xiu, perhaps only a beauty like Ouyang Lulu could be worthy of him, right? "I've seen her a few times," Jimu replied perfunctorily. He then took out the prepared gifts from the trunk and followed the middle-aged man to the dining building. When he saw Tan Xiu and Ouyang Lulu sitting by the window and chatting, he immediately quickened his pace. With a cautious smile on his face he said, "Brother Tang, sister-in-law, I'm not disturbing you, am I?" "Brother Tang? Sister-in-law?" Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh upon hearing the way Jimu addressed him. He had only met Jimu once. Since when did they become familiar with each other? On the contrary, the word sister-in-law was like honey pouring into Ouyang Lulu's heart. She secretly praised Jimu. After quickly getting up, she stood at the table and smilingly said, "Jimu, I never thought that the friend Tan Xiu mentioned would turn out to be you. It seems that my man is really outstanding. He even has a friendship with the young master of the Ji family in Changxi City." "All right, you can continue your business. I'll tell the kitchen to prepare some good food and wine for you." After watching Ouyang Lulu leave, Tan Xiu gestured to Jimu to sit across him and smilingly asked, "Brother Jimu, what kind of play are you playing?" Jimu pushed the 4 gift boxes tied with colored ropes and smilingly said, "It's been a long time since we parted ways in Mount Lao last year, but I can still vividly remember Brother Tang's elegant demeanor at that time. Well, I just got a bit free recently, so I came to Shanghai to visit you, Brother Tang." "This is?" Tan Xiu pointed to the 4 gift boxes. "I got some trinkets recently. Since I came to visit you, I must bring some gifts, no?" Jimu smilingly said, "I hope Brother Tang doesn't dislike them." Tan Xiu squinted his eyes and deeply observed Jimu. Jimu's sudden visit and the gifts he prepared made Tan Xiu realize the deep meaning behind it. After a moment of silence, he slowly asked, "Jimu, is there anything I can help you with?" Jimu stared blankly for a moment before he immediately shook his head and said, No. I really just want to visit you because I admire your ability, Brother Tang. There are only a few people who can make me admire these days, so I came here to get closer to you and get along well with you." "Your way of making friends is quite novel, huh?" Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing. "All right, I'll accept your gift regardless of whether you have any other purpose. If you're not in a hurry to go back tonight, then stay here for a night. Deal." Jimu was delighted inwardly. Ring, ring, ring. The mobile phone in Tan Xiu's pocket suddenly rang. When he took it out and saw the caller ID, a strange expression immediately appeared on his face. After giving it a thought, he didn't hide it from Jimu. He picked up the phone and smilingly said, "Xiaoyang, how come you suddenly remembered to call me?" Qin Xiaoyang's voice came out of the phone. "Brother Tang, I've arrived in Shanghai now. Do you think it's convenient for us to have a meal together? I have something I want to talk to you about." Tan Xiu and Qin Xiaoyang had business cooperation, so he naturally wouldn't refuse. He covered the phone and looked at Jimu, saying, "A friend of mine in the imperial capital said he wants to meet me to talk about something. How about I call him over and have a drink together?" Chapter 691. Jimu was already rejoicing that he could see Tan Xiu. So how could he mind Tan Xiu's other friends coming over? Even Tan Xiu's question made him feel flattered. He secretly felt that Tan Xiu's character was really good even though he was hiding his strength. Jimu. Half an hour later, Qin Xiaoyang arrived in a hurry. When he saw that the person dining with Tan Xiu turned out to be Jimu, a surprised expression immediately appeared on his face. Jimu was also stunned. He didn't expect that the friend Tan Xiu mentioned would turn out to be Qin Xiaoyang, his sworn brother. After pushing the chair and standing up, Jimu said with a smile. Brother Tang just said that a friend is coming over, but I never thought that it would be you, second brother. I didn't expect that the one drinking with Brother Tan Xiu would be you either. Qin Xiaoyang smiled. How did you get together? I came to visit Brother Tang. Listening to their conversation, Tan Xiu waved his hand to signal Qin Xiaoyang to sit down and asked, You two know each other before? Brother Tan Xiu, Jimu and I are sworn brothers. When we were young, we were full of righteousness and brotherhood. I happened to bump into Jimu and had a fight with him. After getting along with him, I found that he's a good person, so. Qin Xiaoyang said with a smile. Since you know each other, then I don't have to introduce you. Tan Xiu suddenly understood and smilingly said, Anyways, why did you come to Shanghai, Xiaoyang? Is something the matter? Qin Xiaoyang glanced at Jimu and finally spoke without hiding anything. I came to Shanghai to see you because of two things. First, our company's HQ is in the imperial capital, and it's going to open on May 1st. Can you come and attend it? The company's CEO, Zhu Changtian, also wants to meet you and Chu Yi. I'll go to the imperial capital if I can spare some time during the Labor Day holiday, said Tan Xiu. Tell me the second thing. As far as I know, the superstar Zhang Xinya is now in Shanghai, said Qin Xiaoyang. And I heard from my friend that you have a good relationship with Zhang Xinya. So can you sign her to our company? By the way, her contract has ended. She's a free agent now. Tan Xiu said, Business is business, friendship is friendship. I understood this principle. Of course, it wasn't impossible if they could use their friendship to discuss business. Well, I'll call Zhang Xinya later and ask her if she's interested in working in our company. No matter what her final decision is, I'll respect her choice. Qin Xiaoyang was delighted. He turned to look around and whispered, Tan Xiu, I heard that Zhang Xinya has been very poor recently. As long as the price is high enough and the treatment is good enough, I think it'll be hard for her to refuse. By the way, tell her directly that once she signs with us, we'll pay her 5 million in advance. She's poor? Tan Xiu was surprised. Yeah. Qin Xiaoyang nodded. There were rumors in the circle that she had invested in a business, which seemed to be related to construction, but she had not received any returns until now. Many people in the entertainment circle are waiting to see her make a fool of herself. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, I get it. I'm afraid that those who want to see Zhang Xinya make a fool of herself will eventually turn into jealousy. She won't lose money, and will definitely make a fortune in the future. What do you mean? Qin Xiaoyang was confused. Tan Xiu didn't hide it and directly said, Zhang Xinya invested in a real estate business together with me. Have you heard of Jin Xingkui of Shanghai's Jindao Real Estate? The new building he recently developed was designed by me, and Zhang Xinya and I have shares in it. What? Qin Xiaoyang revealed a shocked expression, and even Ji Mu was taken aback. They didn't expect that Zhang Xinya and Tan Xiu had such a deep relationship. They were business partners. Zhang Xinya is going to make a fortune. Qin Xiaoyang and Ji Mu exchanged glances as the same question popped up in their minds. After all, it would be hard for them not to make a fortune if they could hug a big tree like Tan Xiu. 10 o'clock in the evening. Tan Xiu called Han Qinggu and asked her for a day's leave. He then called Zhang Xinya and learned that she was really in Shanghai, so they arranged to meet tomorrow. That night, Tan Xiu accompanied Ouyang Lulu. After a few rounds of sex, Ouyang Lulu's physique had been greatly improved, but she was still tired and panting as she hugged Tan Xiu and slept. The next day, Tan Xiu left Paradise Manor and rushed to the place where he had an appointment with Zhang Xinya, a top beauty salon in Shanghai. What made him a bit helpless was that this beauty salon only accepted women, and men were not allowed to enter. Fortunately, Zhang Xinya had a good relationship with the beauty salon's boss, so Tan Xiu was led by the beauty salon staff through the back door, and directly went to the office area on the 4th floor. Womanland? Tan Xiu was surprised to find that there were a lot of employees in this beauty salon, at least more than 100 people, and without exception, all of them were young and beautiful women. Tan Xiu had a strong self-control, but he was still a bit embarrassed in the face of the scantily dressed women coming and going in the corridor. Almost all of them were wearing half-open pajamas. What a rare sight. We actually have a man here. Who has such a big face to let our boss open the back door? Could it be that the boss has fallen in love with him? I bet 100 yuan that it's definitely not the boss's man. Otherwise, with the boss's character, how could she be willing to bring her boyfriend here? That's right, if the boss is in love, she will definitely hide her boyfriend well, lest her soul be taken away by a group of female demons like you. Haha, sisters are here to serve the ladies. Who wants to make an exception to hook up with this handsome guy? If I can go, the 2 hours will be free. Shameless. Vixen. Haha. Hearing the words of these women, Tanshio couldn't help but secretly shake his head in his heart. It was said that 3 women could make a drama, but this group of more than 100 women was simply like dozens of big movies mixed together. Compared with the aunties in the vegetable market, they were completely inferior. He subconsciously quickened his pace and followed the woman who brought him in. They quickly passed through the office area and entered the innermost general manager's office. At the window, a woman wearing a brown vest, white shirt and white trousers, with capable short hair, was looking outside with her back facing him. She had a good figure and looked young. She put her hands in the pockets of her trousers and unexpectedly had a very handsome posture. Boss, Mr. Tang is here. Well, you can go out first. The woman's voice was very neutral, and she said without turning her head. Yes. As the woman left, the door was also closed from the outside. Tanshio's expression was calm. Although he didn't know whether Zhang Xinya was here or not, he didn't believe that this place was a dragon's pool or a tiger's den, and he was not afraid of any conspiracy. Seeing that the woman didn't turn around, Tanshio went straight to the sofa and sat down. He crossed his legs and asked, "Do you mind if I have a cigarette?" The woman finally turned around slowly. She had a breathtakingly beautiful face, but because of her neutral attire, it gave people a different kind of beauty. She was beautiful but not seductive, cold but not cold, like a green lotus in a shallow pond in the winter season. Tanshio's posture of taking out the cigarette froze, and a strange look appeared in his eyes. This face was almost exactly the same as Zhang Xinya's, but Tanshio could guarantee that this was definitely not Zhang Xinya. The two could have the same appearance, but the temperament revealed from inside to outside was absolutely impossible to perfectly imitate. What? We haven't seen each other for such a short time, and you don't recognize me? The woman's mouth was outlined and a playful smile appeared on her face. Tanshio shook his head and took out a cigarette. After lighting it up, he took a puff and then said, "Although you look exactly the same as Zhang Xinya, you're definitely not her. And I've never seen you before. If my guess is correct, you and Zhang Xinya should be twin sisters, but I can't guess whether you're the older or younger sister." Huh. The woman looked deeply at Tanshio, and an intense surprise rose inside her. Her name was Zhang Xinyue, Zhang Xinya's younger twin sister. But no one had been able to recognize them since they were young, especially someone who could be sure that she was not her older sister, Zhang Xinya, even though it was the first time they met. Can you tell me the reason? Zhang Xinyue crossed her arms and looked at Tanshio with her back facing the window as she asked. The reason is very simple. Both of you have different temperaments, said Tanshio. What I'm looking at is not the way you dress up, because a person can dress up very flirtatious or neutral. But you're not like that. The temperament you exude comes from your bones, and there's a subtle difference in your words and actions. Zhang Xinya has a gentle temperament, and getting along with her is like bathing in the spring breeze. You, on the other hand, are different. Although it's our first meeting, you give off a gorgeous yet not flirtatious, cold yet not cold, and as tranquil as a lotus. Clap, clap, clap. Zhang Xinyue applauded and praised. I finally understand why my older sister often mentions you in front of me. You have a handsome appearance, a meticulous mind, and outstanding intelligence. Of course, this may also be the reason why you can establish the magnificent Tang Corporation and become the most promising company in the business world today. I'm just a layman, a very ordinary college student. Tanshio shook his head and smilingly said, Children from poor families tend to take charge of their own affairs early, so they think more and do more than others. Zhang Xinyue was a bit uncomfortable facing Tanshio's modesty, In her opinion, Tan Xiu should be a young man with pride flowing deep in his bones. For example, he just sat comfortably on the sofa without her consent, and even lit a cigarette without her consent. However, his modesty seemed to come from the bottom of his heart, and was not a pretentious act. It was very contradictory. The fusion of these two personalities was like the fusion of good and evil in the martial arts world in ancient times, forming a unique aura that was neither good nor evil. I really can't see through such a person, Zhang Xinyu muttered inwardly. Then, she walked to the opposite side of Tan Xiu and sat down asking, Mr. Tang, my older sister is having a beauty treatment, so I'm afraid you'll have to wait for a while. While chatting with you, can I take the liberty to ask a question? Chapter 692. Tan Xiu had seen countless twin sisters, but it was his first time seeing two who looked so similar. Feeling that the situation was quite interesting, he made a gesture and said, Ask away. Zhang Xinyu asked directly, Does Mr. Tang like my sister? Would you like to be my brother-in-law? Cough, cough. Despite having a wild imagination, Tan Xiu never expected that Zhang Xinyu would ask such a question all of a sudden. But after seeing her straight eyes, he coughed twice and smilingly said, I think you misunderstood me. I and your big sister are just ordinary friends. Besides, I already have a girlfriend, so I naturally can't be your brother-in-law. Is your girlfriend more beautiful than my big sister? Zhang Xinyu frowned. Is she more outstanding than my big sister? Zhang Xinyu frowned. There's no way to compare whether a woman is outstanding or not, especially when it comes to love, said Tan Xiu. I naturally think that the woman I like is outstanding, but I still can't talk about marriage with the woman I don't like, even if she's outstanding to the heavens. That's a fallacy, isn't it? Zhang Xinyu snorted coldly. How can any man not like an outstanding woman? Tan Xiu pondered for a moment and slowly said, If a man likes an outstanding woman whenever he sees one, I'm afraid that the world will be in chaos. Let me give you an example. Your big sister is very outstanding. Not only does she have an outstanding appearance, figure, and temperament, but she's also a well-known superstar. The most important thing is that she has a good character. She has money and status. She's really outstanding in the eyes of countless men. You, on the other hand, are her little sister, and you also have an outstanding appearance. Furthermore, you can open such a big beauty salon in Shanghai, so you should be very rich and have a high status in the hearts of countless women. With such conditions, I'm afraid that many men will consider you as an outstanding woman. Just because you're outstanding. Do you think it's ridiculous for me to fall in love with both of you at the same time? Or that I'll be fickle in love? Zhang Xinyu was shocked by Tan Xiu's words. Her thinking was very simple and pure. She could feel that her big sister really liked Tan Xiu after spending some time with her big sister. It was very likely that she had a deep love for him. Therefore, she wanted to take this opportunity to understand Tan Xiu's feelings for her big sister. But he didn't expect such an outcome. Was this what it meant by, the falling flowers yearn for love, but the heartless water flows? Suddenly, she felt sorry for her sister, but at the same time, she could not hate Tan Xiu. On the contrary, she admired Tan Xiu a little. After all, with her sister's qualifications, the number of men who wanted to marry her could probably line up 100 times around Shanghai. However, this person in front of her was rational and sincere enough. Zhang Xinyu slowly got up. Under Tan Xiu's gaze, she bowed and said, Mr. Tang, since you can't be with my sister, can I trouble you to keep a distance from her in the future? If possible, I hope that today will be the last time you see each other. Tan Xiu frowned and said, I don't understand what you mean. Zhang Xinyu solemnly said, Since my big sis is not here, let's be frank. My sister has a good impression of you, and they probably have deep feelings for each other. Since you already have a girlfriend, it's impossible for you to marry my sister in the future, so the best choice is to let time wear away her feelings. Mr. Tang, you are a smart man. I believe you will understand. I don't want my sister to get hurt. Tan Xiu fell into silence for a long while before he finally nodded slowly and said, I understand. But I can't guarantee that I won't see her for the rest of my life. It's not something I can decide alone. But you can rest assured that I'll try my best to keep a distance from her after today. Zhang Xinyue's favorable impression of Tan Xiu increased after she got his reply. She realized that Tan Xiu was not a fickle man. Nor did he feel complacent after learning that an outstanding woman had fallen in love with him. His performance and reply were very modest and gentlemanly. No wonder Big Sis likes him. This kind of man is indeed outstanding. Zhang Xinyue muttered inwardly. She suddenly recalled Tan Xiu's conclusion about outstanding and feelings just now and couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that he was right. If she regarded him as someone she liked just because he was outstanding, then wouldn't she also like him? Please wait a moment, Mr. Tang. I'll go and see if my sister is done. Following Zhang Xinyue's departure, the smile on Tan Xiu's face gradually converged, and even a wry smile could be seen on his handsome face. He didn't expect that he would have such a strong luck in love affairs after returning to Earth. Even a famous superstar like Zhang Xinyue had feelings for him. He couldn't figure out what was so good about him. Apart from his good looks, there were many other handsome men in the world. Of course, he was also a bit richer than others. But then again, there were a lot of rich people in the world. As for his strength, he was a cultivator. He was very powerful, but he was not the only cultivator in the world. As for his character, he was not ostentatious and even deliberately kept a low profile. He wouldn't provoke women too much, right? As for his medical skills, Tang Xiu didn't want to know, but he was startled. He didn't have a high EQ, but his IQ was very high. He carefully thought about it and realized that he actually had so many advantages, and any one of them could be regarded as outstanding in a certain field. Rebirth and transmigration. It's indeed a killer weapon in life. Tan Xiu sat on the sofa with his legs crossed. He released his true essence force to wrap the cigarette ashes and constantly flew them out of the window gap. There was no ashtray in the world of women, so it was not convenient to smoke a cigarette. Not long after, Zhang Xinyue returned to her office after leaving, along with Zhang Xinya. When Tan Xiu saw the two identical women, even their figures were almost the same, he couldn't help but secretly praise the creator's magic. Given how similar they were as sisters, it was very likely that some people who were familiar with them would mistake them for each other. Tan Xiu. Zhang Xinya was very happy to see Tan Xiu. She came over with a brisk pace and casually threw her handbag on the sofa at the side. Then, she sat next to Tan Xiu and said, "You called me yesterday and said that you have something to discuss with me. What is it? Also, how did you know that I'm in Shanghai? I've hardly gone out since I came here, and I haven't even attended any business events." "I didn't know that you were in Shanghai actually," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "It was Qin Xiaoyang who told me. Besides, I'm actually here as a lobbyist." "Qin Xiaoyang? The owner of the Kanda Club in the imperial capital?" Zhang Xinya was surprised. The sole heir of the Qin family in the business world. "Yeah, it's him." Tan Xiu nodded. "Why are you helping him as a lobbyist?" Zhang Xinya was confused. "Qin Xiaoyang, Chu Yi, and I have set up an entertainment company together," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "I've invested 1 billion yuan and hold 30% of the company's shares, whereas Chu Yi has invested 500 million yuan and holds 15% of the company's shares. 10% of the shares will be given to the company's top executives in the future, while the remaining 45% will belong to Qin Xiaoyang, who has invested 1.5 billion yuan. Of course, Chu Yi and I won't intervene in this company, and Qin Xiaoyang has full authority to manage it. He learned that your management contract has expired, so he wants me to invite you to join the entertainment company. Aside from giving you 1% of the company's shares, you'll also receive better treatment than before." "I agree," said Zhang Xinya without hesitation. "I can't agree." Zhang Xinyue immediately called out. Tang Xiu glanced at Zhang Xinyue and understood her thoughts. On the contrary, it was Zhang Xinya who frowned and asked with a confused look, "Why can't I agree, little sis? I don't plan to open my own studio, and I have nothing to do now. You also know that I'm quite poor recently, and I'm about to ask you for help. How can I not work? Besides, Tan Xiu has shares in this company, so I believe he won't let me suffer a loss." Zhang Xinyue secretly cursed inwardly. "It's because Tan Xiu has shares in this company that I don't want you to agree. It would be better if I can avoid meeting him in the future, or even have other interactions with him. However, she didn't dare to say it out, so she could only bite the bullet and said, "Sis, I think you've been too tired in recent years, so it's better for you to rest first. Besides, you still have me, don't you? I can support you even if you're willing to rest for 8 to 10 years." Zhang Xinya felt warm inside after hearing her younger sister's words. However, even though she was very touched, she didn't want her younger sister to support her, so she firmly said, "You don't need to persuade me anymore, Xinyue. I've decided to join the entertainment group." Zhang Xinyue knew her elder sister well. She was soft on the outside but firm on the inside, and few people could change her mind once she decided on something. But on second thought, Tan Xiu almost didn't care about the entertainment company's affairs. Under such circumstances, it was likely that the two of them wouldn't meet much if her elder sister was busy. Therefore, she could only force a wry smile and said, "Sis, I'll respect your decision since you've made up your mind. But don't tire yourself too much since you can't earn enough money." Zhang Xinya said with a smile. "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing," said Zhang Xinya with a smile. After getting Zhang Xinya's reply, Tan Xiu didn't want to stay here for long, so he got up and smilingly said, "I still have other things to do, so I'll take my leave first. Xinya, I'll text Qin Xiaoyang's cell number to you later. You can contact him." "You're leaving so soon?" asked Zhang Xinya quickly. "We just met for a while." Tan Xiu casually glanced at Zhang Xinyue and smilingly said, "I have a lot of things to do, so I gotta go. I'll contact you after I'm done with my work." Zhang Xinya was somewhat reluctant, but she was also afraid of disturbing Tan Xiu's business, so she could only nod with a disappointed expression. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment, Tan Xiu's mobile phone rang. He took it out and saw that it was from Mo Ao, so he immediately picked it up and asked, "What's up, Ao?" "Something happened, boss." After a while, the smile on Tan Xiu's face instantly disappeared, and was replaced with a gloomy and solemn expression. Chapter 693. After leaving Zhang Xinyue's beauty salon, Tan Xiu hurriedly went outside. After entering the car, he immediately asked in a deep voice, "Oh, tell me the specific situation." Mo Ao didn't rush to start the car, but handed over a stack of documents and said, "There were a total of 4 murders in Shanghai last night. The murderers' means were extremely cruel. The State Special Department intervened and killed a squad of 4 people. According to the statistics, a total of 16 people were killed last night. The 4 murder scenes were located in 4 directions of Shanghai." Tan Xiu furrowed his brows and asked, "Was there a similar murder case before?" "Yeah." Mo Ao nodded. "There were also 3 murder cases 2 days ago. We know who Fierce Beast is in one of them. He's the Stygian Club's assassin. The other 2 cases are very similar to last night's. I suspect that the culprit behind these 6 murders should be the same group of people, but I still can't figure out what their purpose is." Tan Xiu pondered for a moment before he took out his mobile phone and called Li Xiaojie. To his surprise, Li Xiaojie, a member of the state's intelligence department, didn't know what happened. However, he told Tan Xiu another thing. Members of the state's special forces had secretly arrived in Shanghai. What is their purpose? Tan Xiu touched his chin with a pondering expression in his eyes. Mo Ao didn't disturb Tan Xiu until Tan Xiu took out a cigarette and lit it. Then he asked, "Where are we going next, boss?" "Let's go to Paradise Manor," Tan Xiu said. "I don't know if these criminal cases have anything to do with Shanjena, but it's obvious that there's an undercurrent surging in Shanghai. Shanjena is staying in Shanghai, so no accident must happen to her. Anyways, tell some people to hide in Paradise Manor to ensure Shanjena's safety." "Understood," Mo Ao replied. After returning to Paradise Manor, Tan Xiu first went to see Qin Xiaoyang and told him about Zhang Xinya's decision. Then he went to the Western-style building in the depths of the building and found a heavy-duty container truck moving things down. Tan Xiu asked around and found out that the research equipment Mo needed had been delivered. "Shanjena, you are not allowed to leave this building without my permission. Something happened outside and Shanghai is very dangerous now. I don't want any unexpected troubles to appear." Tan Xiu appeared in front of Shanjena and told her bluntly. "What danger?" Shanjena's complexion slightly changed. She thought that the Stygian Club had sent an assassin to hunt her down. One had to know that she still had the scent of the dark soul incense on her body. If other assassins came to Shanghai, they would definitely be able to find this place by following the scent. Tan Xiu said, "Recently there have been many serious murders in Shanghai. The people from the Wuxia government's special department have been involved, and even the military has taken action. I don't know the purpose behind the murders, but I'll be living here for the time being. Additionally, I've also assigned some people to protect your safety in the surrounding area." Shanjena nodded with a serious expression. Tan Xiu's words were like a shot of tranquilizer that made her suppress her panic. After all, she knew the strength of Tan Xiu and his men. Each and every one of them was extremely powerful. If they couldn't protect her, then there would be no place in the world that was safe. However, she was very curious about who was so bold and dared to wantonly kill people in China. She knew some of China's national conditions, and naturally knew that going against the entire country would never end well. Suddenly, her body trembled, and something came to her mind. She hurriedly said, "Mr. Tang, maybe I know something that will be useful to you." "What do you know?" asked Tan Xiu. "I've been on the run all the way from Europe without a fixed route," said Shanjena with a serious expression. "I happened to stumble upon a deal during the half a month of fleeing. I don't know the specifics, but I know that it's a technological product that can be applied to weapons. When they negotiated, they said that they would come to Magic City in China in the near future to carry out the deal." "Who's the other party?" asked Tan Xiu immediately. "I don't know." Shanjena shook her head and said, "I didn't pay much attention to it at that time, so I only remember that the other party is a Caucasian named Austin Cole." "That's right. He said that he has great power in the SOE company and is fully responsible for the transaction. He's willing to bear the consequences even if something goes wrong." Tan Xiu turned to look at Mo Ao and said, "Go investigate this SOE company. Also, find out the information about Austin Cole." Mo Ao didn't move. He was silent for a moment and then slowly said, "I know this SOE company, boss. I also know Austin Cole. SOE is a pharmaceutical company that deals in drugs and medical equipment on the surface, but it's a very mysterious arms trading company in Europe behind the scenes. Austin Cole was the third-ranking executive of SOE and controlled half of the armed forces of SOE. I've been in contact with him before. He's a ruthless and merciless guy. Why would he come to China if he's an arms smuggler?" Tan Xiu frowned. "Could it be that he wants to do business in China?" Mo Ao shook his head and said, "I don't know. Most of the members of this SOE company are secretive, especially the top 3 guys. They're as cunning as foxes, cautious as mice, and as fierce as wolves. Not many people in Europe are willing to provoke them. Send someone to investigate and see if this Austin Cole really came to Magic City," said Tan Xiu. "Although I'm not from this country, they came to Magic City to kill wantonly. Since I'm here, I'll clean them up while I'm at it." "I'm afraid this matter isn't that simple, boss," said Mo Ao. "If it's really done by this SOE company, they must have a big purpose. Else, they wouldn't have come to China so easily, and they wouldn't have set their destination in a first-tier city like Magic City. Investigate it first," Tan Xiu said. "We'll talk about the rest after we get the result." "Understood," Mo Ao replied and then strode out of the room. Tan Xiu squinted his eyes at Shanjena and smilingly said, "If the murderer in Magic City is really the SOE company's people as you said, then I'll give you a big gift." "What big gift?" asked Shanjena curiously with interest. "You'll be very disappointed if I tell you now, and the result of the investigation turns out to be different," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "But to give you a sense of anticipation, let's wait for the result of the investigation first. All right, you cooperate with Professor Mo in his research and leave the security issue to my people." "All right." Shanjena shrugged her shoulders and nodded. Tan Xiu didn't stay in the Western-style building for a long time. After arriving at Ouyang Lulu's residence, he directly entered the room. As his eyes swept over the gift boxes he received last night on the coffee table, he immediately walked over and opened the first gift box. To his surprise, there was a pair of white jade pendants inside. To Tan Xiu's surprise, there was spiritual qi inside the white jade pendants. It turned out to be a magic tool, Tan Xiu observed it for a moment, and the surprised expression on his face turned more intense. Immediately after, he opened the second gift box. The thing inside was a punching technique manual. Looking at the yellowed paper, it was obvious that this punching technique manual was quite old. After opening the third gift box that day, his breathing slightly stagnated as two well-preserved millennium ginseng appeared in front of him. This gift, Tan Xiu recalled Jimu's attitude when he saw him last night. There was something fishy about it. Although he was the owner of the magnificent Tang Corporation, and also a member of the Tang family in the imperial capital, it was not enough to make Jimu spend so much. It must be noted that the pair of white jade pendants would definitely fetch a sky-high price if they were sold to someone who had a discerning eye. The price of these 2 Millennium Wild Ginseng would at least be in the 9 digits. Even that fist manual, if sold to a martial arts practitioner, would be able to make a huge profit. What exactly is his purpose? Tan Xiu pondered as he slowly opened the fourth gift box, which was also the biggest one. When the item inside was presented in front of him, he was startled despite being accustomed to seeing treasures. It was a white jade zither. The zither's body was made of white jade with the flood dragon's tendons as the strings. The fire bead was inlaid on the right end while the serene water bead was inlaid on the left end. The zither's body was also engraved with array patterns. A surging spiritual force was circulating on the zither's body, giving off a dazzling sense of beauty. This is a priceless treasure. Tan Xiu's brows furrowed, and the confusion in his eyes turned more intense. After a long time, Tan Xiu dialed Jimu's number. After the other party picked up, he straightforwardly said, "Jimu, I've seen your gift. If you have time now, I hope you can come back to the Paradise Manor. I think it's better for us to clarify some issues between us." "Brother Tang, do you like the gift I gave you?" Jimu didn't reply to Tan Xiu, but asked a question instead. "They're all good things. Who wouldn't like them?" said Tan Xiu. "Since Brother Tang likes them, then my purpose has been achieved," said Jimu with a smile. "You're a man who knows what's good and what's good. Maybe some of them can be of use to me. Leaving them here is purely a waste. Since I've given them to you, Brother Tang, they already belong to you." "Come back then," Tan Xiu said. "Let's talk. I can promise you a request, but don't ask for something too excessive." Jimu fell into silence. His purpose was very simple. He wanted to follow Tang Xiu and learn the ability to transcend the heavens. But he didn't know whether he should mention the request that Tan Xiu had promised him now or not. Once he mentioned it, it would be tantamount to a deal. It would be fine if the deal went through, but if it didn't, then his purpose would completely fail. "Is there a problem?" asked Tan Xiu. "Please wait for me. I'll be there in 2 hours, said Jimu. Tan Xiu hung up the phone and looked at the items in front of him. He directly picked up the 1-foot-long and 1-foot-wide white jade zither. If he had such a white jade zither during the opening ceremony of Shanghai University, he would definitely be able to play a more wonderful zither tune. Chapter 694. In the Ji family's ancestral residence in Changshi City, Jimu stood in front of the family's ancestral hall, watching his grandmother pinching the prayer beads and knocking the wooden fish. His grandmother was a devout Buddhist. Ever since his grandfather passed away more than 20 years ago, she had been living in the side room of the ancestral hall, and rarely stepped out of the courtyard. She had always been indifferent to family matters. Jimu had been rebellious since he was a child, but he was not domineering. After going through the insolent period of his youth, he was now more mature and steady. He had been close to his grandmother since he was a child, so he subconsciously came here after hanging up the phone with Tan Xiu. He was well aware of the truth that riches and honor came from danger. What he saw 2 days ago was Tan Xiu's secret. Although he had taken out a lot of treasures and tried his best to establish a friendship with Tan Xiu, he could only gamble with his life if he wanted to learn the earth-shattering ability to soar in the clouds and ride the mist. "Grandma, I want to talk to you." In the past, Jimu would never interrupt his grandmother's meditation, but he made an exception because the agreed time with Tan Xiu was very short. Hu Shi's closed eyes opened, and a wisp of wisdom flashed in them. She stopped knocking the wooden fish, and gently got up from the praying mat. She turned to look at her grandson outside and said, What happened? Jimu stared blankly for a moment and then bitterly said, Grandma, I've made up my mind to do something very important. I want to talk to you before I leave. Only by listening to your voice can I calm down. Wuxia was silent for a while and then slowly asked, Is it very dangerous? Jimu nodded, but then shook his head and said, There's an ancient saying that you can't catch a tiger cub without entering the tiger's den. Riches and honor come from danger. I want that riches and honor, so I want to take risks. The riches and honor given by the Ji family can't satisfy your appetite? Asked Wuxia with a frown. It's not the same, Grandma. Jimu shook his head. That kind of riches and honor can't be bought with money, not even with a mountain of gold and silver. Wuxia shot him a deep look and said, Since even a mountain of gold and silver can't buy riches and honor, there's no harm in fighting for it. But you must think clearly. You're still young, very young. Jimu fell into silence. He knew that he was young, but he believed that it was precisely this youth that inspired his ambition. It was said that the more you had, the more you were afraid of losing. He had not yet taken over the Ji family business. His parents and uncles were in their prime, so all he had now was the identity of the Ji family and a wealthy life. Wuxia asked, Have you discussed it with your parents? Do the uncles in the clan know about it? I can't tell you. Jimu shook his head. Wuxia sighed. Do you need grandmother to do anything? No need. I've done what I can, said Jimu with a smile. Next, I'll just do my best and leave it to heaven's will. If he wants me dead, I'm afraid it's impossible to change my fate even if the entire Ji family goes all out. Don't worry. I've already given him some treasures in advance, so the chances of him coming back alive are still very high. Baby? Wuxia's wrinkled face froze for a moment. Looking at the bright smile on her grandson's face, she suddenly made up her mind. She turned around and walked to the table where the ancestral memorial tablets were enshrined. From the leftmost drawer of the table, she took out a rectangular wooden box. She gently wiped the dust on it and returned to the front of Jimu, saying, Our Ji family was a high official and noble family in the Ming and Qing dynasties. Although most of the treasures in our family were lost during the turbulent times, we still left some good things behind. Take this wooden box and give it to him as a gift. If he has a discerning eye, he can say that the things inside will increase your chances of coming back. Jimu's hands trembled a bit. Although he didn't know what treasures were inside the wooden box, it was definitely something good since it was placed in the ancestral hall. Yet his grandmother was willing to give it to someone else for his sake. Such a loving heart made him want to cry. Go, grandson. Wuxia gently waved her hand and turned around to sit back on the praying mat. Shanghai Century Square. Yu Shuqing crossed his legs and sat on a bench at the northern end of the square. He held the hot milk tea. He just bought and chewed the last piece of grilled sausage in his mouth. As the captain of the most mysterious Phantom Special Combat Squad in China, he had wandered on the edge of life and death countless times. Yet at this moment, he was like an ordinary person who didn't do his job properly. Boss, do you think that profit-driven guy will come? On the edge of the flower bed next to Yu Shuqing, Mo Xiaonan squatted there and yawned in boredom. Only the passing beauties with good figures could make him a bit spirited. Since he's blinded by profit, he naturally won't miss the opportunity to get rich, said Yu Shuqing casually. Don't look at that guy's crooked ways, but he still has some ability. Otherwise, how could he get the information that even the intelligence department couldn't find? He does have some ability, but his heart is too black. Mo Xiaonan snorted and said, The price is getting higher and higher, and this time it's 1,000,000 yuan. Though we're not paying out of our own pockets, I still feel the pain. A smile outlined on the corner of Yu Shuqing's mouth. He sipped the milk tea and asked with a faint smile, What do you think is more important, 1,000,000 yuan or a life? Ugh. Mo Xiaonan raised his hand to touch the bridge of his nose. He was a bit embarrassed and no longer spoke. It didn't take long for a youth dressed in gaudy clothes to sneakily come to Yu Shuqing and Mo Xiaonan. His monkey-like face looked like a money grubber as he sat on the bench where Yu Shuqing was sitting. He took out a pack of crumpled cigarettes, took one out, lit it up, and took a deep puff. Then he grinned and said, Money, money, money. Hurry up and give me the money. My time is precious. Every minute and second I waste is equivalent to silver slipping through my fingers. Rat, I know the rules in this business. You get what you pay for. Yu Shuqing indifferently said. Don't rush to get the money if you don't have the goods. Rat swiftly took out a dirty black booklet from his pocket and threw it to Yu Shuqing, saying, I know you know the rules. It's not the first or second time we've done business. This rat's credibility is guaranteed, so I'm not afraid of you going back on your word. The information you want is in this booklet, and my account number is also on it. Yu Shuqing nodded and drank the milk tea in the cup. Then he got up and said, Same old rules. Half of the deposit will be transferred to your account within half an hour, and the remaining half will be transferred if the information is confirmed to be correct. Anyways, are you interested in being incorporated by the state? Becoming a field agent of the intelligence department? Is it a lot of money? Rat blinked and asked. Yu Shuqing rolled his eyes and didn't bother to pay attention to this money grubber anymore. He directly left with Mo Xiaonan, whose face was quite unsightly. Rat didn't hurry to leave. He raised his hand to touch his chin, and watched Yu Shuqing and Mo Xiaonan leave with some thoughts churning in his mind. Through Yu Shuqing's digression just now, he figured out Yu Shuqing's identity for the first time. He's from the state. He should be a soldier, and not an ordinary one at that. Rat bit the cigarette and lazily leaned on the bench. He took out his mobile phone and waited for the notification of the money being transferred. You're Rat? Two figures appeared in front of Rat. The middle-aged man on the left had eyes like torches and a frosty expression. He spoke with a dignified and imposing manner. Rat frowned. His eyes quickly rolled a few times as he stuffed his hand into his pocket. As he grabbed the knife handle, he slowly raised his head and looked at the two middle-aged men, asking, Which path are you from, two friends? May I know why you're looking for my big brother? That's right. You may be called Rat, but you're as cunning as a fox. You're really a born intelligence expert, just like what the intelligence report said. Let me introduce myself. My name is Jean Sher, and I want to make a deal with you. Jean Sher. Rat narrowed his eyes and became extremely vigilant. He was perfectly aware that his identity had been investigated by the other party, so the camouflage in his words didn't play any role at all. He had dealt with all kinds of people in his life, and there was no lack of characters among them that made him dread. For example, the two people from the state who had just left. But Jean Sher and his companion in front of him gave Rat a great sense of threat. Nobody knew that just now, all the pores on his body had stood erect, and a cold wind was blowing on the back of his neck. What kind of deal? Rat pretended to be calm and asked. I want specific information about the many murders in Shanghai in exchange for a chance to be incorporated by us, said Jean Sher. You only have 2 chances to refuse. A strange expression appeared on Rat's face. Never did he expect that the other party would make such an absurd deal. Be incorporated? He was a powerful figure who owned Shanghai's underground eye, an expert who knew every underground sewer in Shanghai. Yet he was going to be a guinea pig for the other party? Clearing his throat, Rat let out a hollow laugh and said, I need to know who you are before I refuse. I know you need a second chance, said Jean Sher. We're from the Everlasting Feast Hall. You may not know much about us, but we're much stronger than you think. The Everlasting Feast Hall? The highest-ranking Everlasting Feast Hall in Shanghai? Jean Sher secretly despised him. Even if the Everlasting Feast Hall had a very strong force behind it, could it be compared with the entire state? Just now he had refused the state's invitation. I refuse. Rat replied without any hesitation. You wasted your first chance, said Jean Sher with a grin. I'll give you another chance to choose between life and death. If you want to live, join us. If you want to die, then refuse us. Rat raised his voice and shouted. You'll be despised and ridiculed by others if you force us to buy and sell. Besides, it's very likely that you won't get any benefits and will end up in a mess. I heard you like money? Asked Jean Sher with a smile. Sorry, I've been going to classes and seminars recently, so my body is exhausted. Chapter 695. Mouse loved money. This was the consensus of everyone who knew him. And everyone who was willing to deal with him was also prepared to be ripped off. I like it. I like it very much. Mouse puffed out his chest and looked up as he replied without any hesitation. It seems I really found a good helper for boss this time, said Jinshi with a smile. You're known as the Underground Eye, and you're extremely good at collecting intelligence. You also control an intelligence network, even though this network only covers a small city like Magic City. Furthermore, you're also a very good financier for someone who loves money. If you can get the boss trust and put him in an important position in the future, maybe he'll give you the key to the vault. The vault? Mouse's eyes suddenly lit up. A boss who could own a vault was definitely not an ordinary character. However, he couldn't make a choice right now. He was used to the feeling of being in control of everything. Although it was a bit tiring, a steady stream of funds would be transferred to his account every 3 to 5 days, and he could sleep with money as his pillow every night. His eyes glanced to both sides and the hand holding the knife handle in his pocket tightened. He was ready to refuse for the second time, but he also decided to look for an opportunity to slip away. Two brothers, it's better to squash enmity than keep it alive. We're in a society ruled by law now, and this is a public place. You won't dare to act against me, right? Besides, I, Mouse, have always been prepared for both sides. Whenever I appear, I'm bound to have my men following me. There are a lot of people in this square, and maybe some of them can rush out at any time to be used by me. Mouse grinned. Don't try to scare me. Jinshi grinned. I'm afraid you were just a good baby when I was crawling and rolling in a pile of corpses. Don't be in a hurry to refuse. Perhaps you think that you can escape today, but have you ever thought that since we were able to investigate your information, it means that our methods are more brilliant than yours? The power behind us is also not something that you can imagine. Why not? Bet your life at this moment. Mouse frowned and a solemn expression appeared on his monkey-like face. He rarely showed such an expression unless he was facing a major choice or a critical moment. Who's your boss? Our boss is Tanshio, said Jinshi. Mouse thought for a moment and suddenly exclaimed. Tanshio, a freshman at Shanghai University? The young miracle-working Dr. Tanshio of Star City Chinese Medical Hospital? Tanshio, the behind-the-scenes boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation? The long-lost descendant of the Tang family, Tanshio? I didn't expect you to know so much about our boss. Jinshi grinned. Since you already know the identity of our boss, this second chance is even more important. Live or die, surrender or refuse. Give me an answer. Mouse waved his hand and said, Don't rush to hear my answer. I still need to ask 2 questions. If you answer me, I will naturally choose. You're a talent, so I'll give you a chance to ask questions, said Jinshi. Rat's eyes gleamed and he asked in a deep voice. Does your boss have any other identities apart from the ones I just mentioned? Compared to the other identities I mentioned, which one is more important? Yes, but you didn't say it was worse, replied Jinshi without hesitation. Mouse's eyes lit up and he asked again. Why does your boss need the information about the recent murders in Shanghai? You must know that the one to solve these problems should be the government. I don't know. Maybe our boss is bored and wants to find something to kill time. Or maybe he's a compassionate man who doesn't want to see more victims. Alright, you've asked your 2 questions, so give me the answer now. I suddenly changed my mind and was about to ask another question, said Mouse quickly. What kind of treatment can I get if I'm incorporated? Jinshi shook his head and said, I don't know, boss. Mouse rolled his eyes and loosened the knife in his pocket. He then stood up and stretched himself comfortably and smilingly said, I don't want to die, so I choose to be incorporated. As a token of my loyalty, I'll give you some information about the recent murders in Shanghai. No, I mean our boss. Let's go. Take me to see him now. Jinshi nodded directly. He wasn't afraid that Mouse would go back on his words, nor was he afraid that he would run away halfway. His prey would never be able to escape from his palm, even if he had wings. A few minutes later, as Jinshi left with Mouse, a young man with dyed yellow hair and very ordinary clothes followed them. His name was Chen Yongfan, a member of the Phantom Special Combat Squad, and also an excellent scout. His mission was to track the rat and figure out where the rat's nest was. Strange, where did those 2 guys come from? What's their purpose in taking Mouse away? Chen Yongfan raised his hand to touch his chin as he looked at the car in front and pondered in silence. Half an hour later, bam! At a fork in the road more than 10 kilometers away from Paradise Manor, the rear tire of the Beijing Hyundai SUV driven by Chen Yongfan burst. Fortunately, he was a skilled driver and kept hitting the brake with both hands to control the steering wheel as the car gradually stopped on the side of the road. That's strange. Chen Yongfan frowned. He got off the car and went to the rear tire to look. He found that there was a flying knife stuck in the tire, and the main reason for the tire burst was this flying knife. Whoosh! A hazy figure silently appeared behind Chen Yongfan. He was an expert scout of the Phantom Special Combat Squad, but only when a sharp dagger was placed on his neck did he suddenly realize it. This sudden crisis made the pores all over his body burst open, and he felt like he had fallen into an ice cave. How is this possible? He roared and howled inwardly. He was extremely confident in his reaction. Even Yu Shuqing, the captain of the Phantom Special Combat Squad, could only be within 7 to 8 meters from him without being detected. If the distance was closer, he would never be able to escape his perception. Don't look back if you don't want to die. A deep and low voice came from behind. Chen Yongfan nodded silently with a bit of fear. His voice turned a bit hoarse at this moment as he asked, "Who are you?" The person behind him sneered and said, "You don't need to know who I am. Just answer my question first. Who sent you to track Mouse? Who are you?" Mouse. Chen Yongfan recalled the two middle-aged men he saw before. His mind moved and said, "It seems that you're with the one who took Mouse away. It's inconvenient to reveal my identity, but I assure you that I have no malicious intent." The person behind him pondered for a moment and slowly said, "You'll die faster if you know too much. Even though you didn't answer my question, I can tell from your words and actions that you're a soldier, and an elite soldier belonging to the Wuxia Special Combat Squad. I warn you, go back and tell your leader not to try to investigate Mouse again. Otherwise." 2 seconds later, Chen Yongfan realized that the dagger on his neck was gone, and there was no movement from the person behind him. The moment he immediately turned his head, he was shocked to find that it was empty behind him. There was no trace of the mysterious man at all. His sharp eyes quickly glanced at the passers-by in the surroundings, but he couldn't determine the trace of the man even with his professional skills. 2 or 3 seconds. An intense panic rose in Chen Yongfan's heart. He didn't believe that someone's speed could be this fast. In just 2 or 3 seconds, the man appeared at least 60 meters away. He didn't even have the time to see the man's figure. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. His eyes then fell on the flying dagger that pierced the tire. At this moment, he finally understood that it was absolutely not the tire that pressed the flying dagger, but someone who used a flying dagger to puncture the tire while he was driving at high speed. Upon realizing this, his heart fiercely twitched a few times. Without the slightest hesitation, he immediately sat in the driver's seat and dialed Captain Yu Shuqing's number. "What's the situation?" Yu Shuqing's cold voice came out of the phone. "I just bumped into an expert, Captain," said Chen Yongfan bitterly. "It's a guy who's like a ghost. He used a flying dagger to puncture the tire of the off-road vehicle I was driving, and it happened when I was driving at 80 to 90 kilometers per hour. Furthermore, he appeared behind me and put a knife on my neck, but I didn't even notice that he was approaching me. The most frightening thing is that he paused for about 2 seconds after he spoke. I immediately turned around, only to find that he had disappeared into thin air. According to my judgment of the surrounding environment, he was at least 60 meters away in just 2 or 3 seconds. That's impossible. Yu Shuqing shouted in a heavy tone. Chen Yongfan, you're a soldier. I don't want you to play such a joke on me. Even a martial arts grandmaster who is good at speed can't sprint 60 meters in just 2 seconds. Also, I know your skill very well. You've won the first place in the National Scout competition for 2 consecutive years, and the later training is even more brutal. Your combat awareness has reached a level that even I'm slightly inferior to. It's impossible for you to react when someone put a knife on your neck. What I said is true, Captain, said Chen Yongfan bitterly. I don't believe it either, but it happened to me, so I have no choice but to believe it. Yu Shuqing was silent for a few seconds and then asked, What about Mouse? I lost him, said Chen Yongfan. The other party guessed that I'm a special forces soldier, but he doesn't know my specific identity. He warned me to tell my superiors not to try to investigate Mouse again, otherwise. Otherwise what? Asked Yu Shuqing coldly with squinted eyes. He didn't say it, but the killing aura coming from him is very strong, said Chen Yongfan. I can assure you that if the number of people he killed didn't exceed 3 digits, he wouldn't have such a strong killing aura. Yu Shuqing pondered for a long while and finally slowly said, since you lost him, then come back first. As long as Mouse hasn't left Shanghai, we'll find him sooner or later. Chapter 696. As the saying goes, men die for wealth and birds die for food. In Xie Jiqiang's eyes, wealth was definitely the second most important thing, and his life was the first. For money he could kill his parents, kill his wife, kill his children, and do all kinds of bad things. His motto was, those who stand in my way will die. At the same time, there were more than a dozen guns aimed at him. As long as one of them moved their finger, he would be dead. But in this critical moment he was fearless. He sat on the soft sofa, and even signaled the 4 men behind him to put down their guns. He looked at the foreign Caucasian in front of him with a faint smile. Brother Cole, don't blame me for raising the price. The gene drug particle we jointly developed is too precious. The agreement between us was that once the research on the gene particle is completed, you need to pay me $200 million. You can take the gene particle and the research materials away. But the time it took to develop this gene drug is much longer than we expected. In the past 2 years, you have given up on continuing to increase the funds. The money was all paid by me. So $1 billion. Don't even think about taking the gene particle away. If your people dare to shoot, come shoot me in the head. It's not a big deal if I die, but I'm afraid you will never get the gene particle we developed. Xie Jiqiang touched his chin and said with a faint smile. The tall and imposing Austin Cole had a murderous look in his eyes. When he wanted to kill someone, he would habitually pinch the bottom button of his clothes with his fingers. At this moment, his fingers were pinching the button. He had met many greedy people, but no one dared to raise the price. However, he knew very well that Xie Jiqiang had a deep friendship with the big boss of their SUE. He even saved the big boss life in the past. If he killed Xie Jiqiang, although the big boss would not directly fall out with him, he was afraid that he would not be kind to him in the future. But a price of $1 billion was absolutely not something he was willing to bear. Xie, in the past 2 years, there have been problems in our SUE. I believe you should have heard about it. Because all the funds were invested in big projects, we were unable to inject funds on time. This is indeed our mistake. But a price of $1 billion is too high. Not to mention me, even the boss can't agree. $300 million. This is our bottom line. If you can't agree, then you can only be our enemy. Xie Jiqiang sneered. $300 million? Do you think I'm a beggar? Over the past 2 years, I've invested close to $200 million, and many of the research materials have been imported from all over the world. You should know about nanomachines, right? In order to get it, I sent people to Africa to ransack a secret research institute in the M nation. Do you know how much I lost? Of the 40 true predators, 27 died there, 13 escaped with nanoworms, and 4 were permanently disabled. Also, do you know where I got the information about the research lab? I bought it from the Darkwind organization for $25 million. Increase the price by $100 million? I can't believe you have the nerve to say that. Austin Cole was silent. He did not know if Xie Jiqiang was telling the truth, but it was indeed their fault for breaching the contract. 8 years had passed since the beginning of the joint research. In the first 6 years, the SOE company invested a total of $480 million, but there was no substantial progress in the research results. Therefore, just as they were about to give up on this plan, they unexpectedly received news of the successful experiment. It was the gene particle. He must get it. Once he had the gene particle, he would be able to transform the body of ordinary people and create a group of genetic mutant experts. Although the SOE company had its own armed forces, there was still a big gap between them and the world's top armed forces. $500 million. That's my bottom line. Austin Cole finally compromised and directly gave up $200 million. This was the highest price he could decide on. I told you I won't sell the gene particle to your SOE company for $1 billion less. Xie Jiqiang shook his head. I'm sure there will be countless forces willing to pay more than $1 billion to buy it once I sell it to other large foreign forces. Are you forcing my hand? Austin Cole angrily asked. That's right. I'm forcing you, said Xie Jiqiang. We'll trade if you want to buy it, but we'll part ways if you don't. This is China. You may have brought a lot of people, but it won't be easy for you to kill me. Maybe you can't even get out of China's border. Those who have threatened me are all dead. Austin Cole didn't say it out loud, but he kept repeating it 3 times in his heart. For the sake of the gene particle, for the sake of the SOE company being able to cultivate a large number of powerful genetic warriors, and doubling the SOE's armed forces, all he had to do now was to endure. A middle-aged man took out a Cuban cigar and lit it for Austin Cole. After taking a few puffs, Austin Cole waved his hand to order his men to put down their guns. He then looked at Xie Jiqiang and lightly said, My authority is only $500 million. I need to contact the boss about this matter and ask him about his decision. Xie Jiqiang shrugged his shoulders and smilingly said, I'll give you 3 days at most. If I don't get a reply within 3 days, I'll set the file in my computer's mailbox to send it out automatically. At that time, at least 20 of the world's top forces will send their people to China to discuss the deal with me. Austin Cole subconsciously touched the bottom button of his clothes again. He nodded with a cold face and got up to leave quickly. Half a minute later, a voluptuous woman with heavy makeup came out of the room next door. She was holding a sharp butterfly knife in her hand, playing with it as it fluttered up and down, creating a flower of the knife. Hey, you wanna die for money? Aren't you afraid of completely enraging Austin Cole? That guy is famous for being ruthless and merciless, asked the woman with a smile. I've provoked many ruthless and merciless people, sneered Xie Jiqiang. It doesn't matter if he's won or not. I couldn't see any hope back then, and was forced into such a difficult situation. Now that the gene particle has been researched, they're like hungry wolves smelling blood. I can't let go of this resentment in my heart if I don't make them bleed. What's your decision if the SOE's big boss gives the order? Asked the woman with a smile. A look of dread could be seen in Xie Jiqiang's eyes. After being silent for a long time, he slowly said, I have some understanding of his character. He won't complicate matters that can be solved with money. Of course, if he really wants to buy it for $500 million, then I'll sell it to him. The gene particle won't be sold to only one company. Help me contact and investigate. I'm bound to find 2 rich customers. The woman squinted her eyes and asked with a faint smile, Aren't you afraid that everyone will know that you have the gene particle in your hands? I'm afraid that countless forces will have their eyes on you at that time. What's there to be afraid of? Xie Jiqiang sneered. I'll give the gene particle formula to the country after I've sold it to several companies. Do you think the country will ignore me at that time? The woman gave a thumbs up with an admiring expression on her heavily made-up face. At the Paradise Manor, Tan Xiao was sitting in the living room of the Western-style building where Ouyang Lulu usually lived with the gifts given by Ji Mu placed in front of him. His fingers plucked the strings of the zither, and the melodious sound was like a feast. Ouyang Lulu was sitting cross-legged at the tea table in front of him, concentrating on making tea. Boss Ji Mu is here. Mo Ao paced a few steps forward and came to Tan Xiao's front. Tan Xiao didn't speak and only finished playing the zither before he gently waved his hand. Shortly after, Ji Mu came with a beautifully wrapped gift box. He carefully placed the gift box in front of Tan Xiao and took 2 steps back. What kind of treasure is this? Tan Xiao pointed to the gift box and asked with an expressionless face. I don't know. Ji Mu shook his head and said, I bid farewell to my grandma 2 hours ago. She told me to give it to you. Tan Xiao pointed to the sofa in front of him. After Ji Mu took a seat, he asked, Tell me, what's your real purpose? Ji Mu had already figured it out, but he was still a bit panicked at the last moment. However, he suppressed his emotions and plucked up his courage to say, I want to become a Superman. or someone with magical powers. Just like what you did in Mount Mang, riding the clouds and riding the mist to kill the enemies. Tan Xiao suddenly looked up with his ice-cold eyes full of killing intent as he asked in a cold voice, "Were you nearby at that time?" Being stared at by Tang Xiao, a chill ran down Ji Mu's spine, and even the back of his neck felt chilly. He suddenly had a feeling that he was being stared at by a ferocious beast that could pounce and bite him at any time. "Yes, I was nearby." Ji Mu forced himself to go all out and nodded. "Who else could have seen it besides you?" asked Tan Xiao indifferently. "Also, who else did you tell about it?" Ji Mu shook his head and said, "No one else but me. Ever since I saw it, I realized that I can't easily tell others about it, so I didn't tell anyone." "Humph. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you to avoid any future troubles?" Tan Xiao coldly snorted. "Actually, I've already prepared for it," said Ji Mu bitterly. "If I can leave here alive today, it means that I've made the right bet. If I were to die here today, even if I'll have a lot of regrets, I'll still have to pay the price for losing. So I accept it." Tan Xiao shot him a deep look and casually took the fragrant tea from Ouyang Lulu. After gulping it down, he put the cup on the table and opened the exquisite packaging. When he saw the rectangular wooden box inside, he was slightly stunned. The life-returning wood. Chapter 697. Little did Tan Xiao expect that this box was actually made from the wood of the life-returning wood. The life-returning wood was considered a good wood in the immortal world. Many cultivators who had just embarked on the path of cultivation would use the wood of the life-returning wood to make long swords for practicing their swordsmanship. This wood was very tough and full of vitality. Even the life force contained inside was very slow, so it could be used to make long swords and wear them. It also had a calming effect. Extravagant. Using the life-returning wood to store things was absolutely extravagant in Tan Xiao's opinion. After all, this was Earth, far from the rich resources in the immortal world. All of a sudden, he faintly looked forward to what was inside the box. He opened the lid. Tang Xiao could clearly see a strand of weasel hair placed inside. The silver weasel hair didn't look special, but as a cultivator, he could keenly sense that each strand of weasel hair was surging with spiritual force like a clear spring. After a while, his eyes narrowed and he instantly released his spiritual sense. "These are..." Tang Xiao was shocked. Despite his vast experience and knowledge, he had never heard of anyone who would engrave ancient characters on a piece of weasel bristle. Furthermore, each piece of weasel bristle was engraved with extremely small characters that were used to compose an entire cultivation technique. That's right. It was a cultivation technique. There were at least hundreds of strands of this weasel bristles, which meant that there were hundreds of cultivation techniques recorded in each strand. In fact, every cultivation technique had the most suitable moves and dharma spells for actual combat. At the very least, you'll need to use a 100-fold microscope to see the characters on these bristles. Which powerhouse actually recorded all the cultivation techniques of a small sect on them? These cultivation techniques may be ordinary, but they're supreme classics for ordinary people. If I wasn't a supreme in the immortal world, perhaps I would have been ecstatic to get these classics. Tan Xiao retracted his spiritual sense and looked at Ji Mu with a faint smile, asking, "Are you really giving this to me?" "Yes." Ji Mu nodded seriously. "What's given is equal to spilled water, and it's hard to take it back." Tan Xiao snapped his fingers and waved to Mo, saying, "Take him to any room and teach him how to identify the human body's acupoints and meridian routes. Tomorrow morning, I need him to memorize all the main acupuncture points and meridian routes in his body." "Yes." Mo nodded respectfully. Ji Mu was stunned. Although he was very resourceful, his brain still short-circuited at this moment. After a long while, he woke up from his daze. Ecstasy climbed onto his face. He jumped up from the sofa and was about to kowtow to Tan Xiao. However, Tan Xiao stopped him and did not even give him an explanation. Ouyang Lulu, who was sitting cross-legged at the table, watched Ji Mu leave with Mo with a pleasantly surprised face. Only then did she curiously turn her head and asked, "You taught him a cultivation technique so easily? Or is the thing he gave you very precious?" Tan Xiao said with a smile, Every weasel bristle here is engraved with a cultivation method and a move, and even records of magical spells. Their Ji family owns the entire treasure vault, yet they are completely unaware of it. Since he wants this opportunity, then I'll give it to him. Sitting on a treasure mountain and not knowing it? Ouyang Lulu was at a loss whether she had to cry or laugh as she glanced at the corridor where Jimu left. She shook her head helplessly and smilingly said, "The Ji family is really interesting." At this moment, Jinshi strode in from the door and respectfully said, "I caught a very interesting person, boss." Tanshio stared blankly and asked with a confused expression, "A very interesting person? What do you mean?" "He's called Mouse, a local snake in Shanghai," said Jinshi. "He's in charge of Shanghai's intelligence network. As long as it's a big incident in Shanghai, from whose daughter-in-law's underwear was stolen to a small murder case, he can get the results as long as he investigates it. What's interesting is that some people in the military sometimes buy intelligence from him in order to solve major cases. Just before we caught him, the military spent 1 million yuan to buy the recent major criminal cases in Shanghai from him." What a powerful guy. Tanshio was surprised. The intelligence network he runs is even stronger than the people from the State Intelligence Department. But what do you mean by catching him? I think you need such a talent, boss. Jinshi smiled. He's very capable, but he regards money as his life. Tanshio squinted his eyes and said, "Bring him in." Understood. 2 minutes later, Jinshi brought Mouse to the living room. As soon as they met, Mouse sneakily glanced at Ouyang Lulu. To be exact, he was looking at the jade carving hanging on her neck. 3 million. How about selling this jade carving to me for 3 million? Mouse asked with a face full of expectation. Ouyang Lulu rolled her eyes and sneered. 3 million? Are you dreaming? Or did you have a fever? Since you can recognize its material, do you think it's only worth 3 million? Ugh. Mouse was speechless and reluctantly moved his eyes away. Let alone 3 million, even 30 million was not enough to buy this jade carving. Tanshio immediately found it interesting after hearing it. He looked at Mouse's sneaky appearance and the disappointment on his face. He clapped his hands and smilingly said, "Treacherous, cunning, and someone who regards money as his life. This kind of character, on the other hand, was the capital of a capable person in a certain field. You're Mouse, right?" Mouse's complexion changed, and he smiled obsequiously with cupped hands. "Greetings, boss. This Mouse will be at your beck and call later. If you have a mountain of gold and silver that you need someone to manage, I'll recommend myself. I'm absolutely confident that I can manage it well. Also, I guarantee that there will be times when Mouse doesn't steal oil to drink." Tanshio couldn't help laughing and said, "I heard that you have a very powerful intelligence network in Demonic City. Tell me about it. The more you tell me, the more valuable you are and the more capable you are. If you want to make a living here, I must see your ability." Mouse straightened his chest and said, "The number of people in Demonic City who are willing to provide me with intelligence is more than 200,000. There are also tens of thousands of people who have earned intelligence fees from me. It's a pity that Demonic City is too small, and I haven't been able to fully display my talents. Otherwise, the world's famous Darkwind organization would be nothing but a fart." Tanshio slapped the table and laughed loudly. Good. That's a good spirit. I'm starting to like you even though it's the first time we met. Mouse, tell me who's the real culprit behind the recent murders in Demonic City?" Mouse glanced at the brewed tea on the table and grinned. "I'm a bit thirsty, boss." "Huh?" Tanshio happily replied. Mouse picked up the small teacup and gulped down the fragrant tea in it. Then, he wiped the water on his lips with his dirty sleeve and grinned. "I really don't know the background of the culprit, but I know the name of the leader. However, I knew the name of their leader. His name was Austin Cole. He brought along a dozen or so seemingly troublesome characters with him, and he lived in the Night Road Hotel in the Serene District. It's a very ordinary hotel where you can stay without ID registration if you spend more money. He's been in contact with Xie Jiqiang, the owner of Mind Assembly Biotechnology, but I don't know the details. It's nothing special that Austin Cole is in contact with the owner of Mind Assembly Biotechnology," Tanshio frowned. But why does he want to commit murder in Demonic City? I don't know. Mouse shook his head. The territory I control is very small, so I can't extend my hands abroad. Tang Xiu then looked at Jin Shi and said, find the person in charge of the Everlasting Feast Hall's intel network in Demonic City. Also find the people in charge of the 10 cities closest to Demonic City. Understood. Jin Shi knew that Tang Xiu had a big move and immediately left to execute it. A glint flashed in Mouse's eyes as he squinted and asked, Boss, I have a question to ask you, but I don't know if I should ask it. Get straight to the point. I don't like to beat around the bush. Tang Xiu lightly said. What kind of existence is the Everlasting Feast Hall, boss? It shouldn't be an ordinary restaurant, right? Do you really want to know? Asked Tang Xiu with a smile. Once you know, you'll really be tied to this chariot of mine and can't get out. Mouse was startled and subconsciously didn't want to hear Tang Xiu's answer. But after hesitating for a moment, he decided to continue asking, I want to know. Tang Xiu let out a faint smile and slowly raised his right arm. An invisible airflow rotated around Mouse, and in a short time, Mouse's body floated up. He struggled with a horrified expression as Tang Xiu hung him a meter above the ground and performed dozens of movements in one breath. The people of the Everlasting Feast Hall can't be called mortals. The Everlasting Feast Hall's foundation can destroy any huge organization in the world. The future wealth of the Everlasting Feast Hall can surpass countless banks. The future status of the Everlasting Feast Hall will surpass any country and any organization in the world. Tang Xiu's words were sonorous and powerful. It drilled into Mouse's ears and shook him to the point that his soul almost left his body. Are you a human or a ghost? Mouse screamed. Tang Xiu waved his hand and threw Mouse out of the door. When he fell in the courtyard and rolled a few meters away, an airflow rolled him up and pulled him back to the living room. Looking at Mouse's dizzy and disoriented state, Tang Xiu smilingly said, I'm an immortal cultivator, and the core members of the Everlasting Feast Hall are also immortal cultivators. Have you seen those Xianxia movies? Those cultivators who can ride their flying swords are far from displaying even 1% of our abilities. Mouse's pupils shrunk and a horrified expression burst from his eyes. After Tang Xiu withdrew the airflow that wrapped around him, Mouse's feet had just landed on the ground when he immediately knelt in front of Tang Xiu and shouted, Immortal, no boss, I'm willing to serve you. I, Mouse, am willing to sell my life to you. If you tell me to go east, I'll never go west even half an inch. If you tell me to go to the sky, I'll never go down to the ground. Tang Xiu looked at him with a faint smile and didn't say anything. Mouse seemed to be afraid that Tang Xiu wouldn't trust him, so he stretched out his finger and vowed, Boss, I, Mouse, want to be a powerful immortal cultivator like you. I want to have formidable power. I'll definitely be loyal to you in the future. Really. Chapter 698. Tang Xiu was a very good judge of character, and he also believed in the results of the intelligence organization's investigation on Mouse. Such a greedy, life-cherishing, cunning, and astute character like him could be recruited as long as there were enough benefits. When he was roaming around in the immortal dimension all those years ago, he'd once recruited many such people. Suddenly, Tang Xiu felt as though he had returned to the time when he was messing around in a certain country in the immortal world. Back then, he had calculated everything for the sake of his goal. Whether it was to crazily amass wealth or secretly recruit troops, the feeling of being the mastermind behind the scenes made his blood boil. Boss! Mouse cautiously looked at the somewhat absent-minded Tang Xiu and called out in a low voice. Tang Xiu came back to his senses and expelled the past memories from his mind. Then he happily said, 3 years. I'll give you 3 years. I need you to help me weave a network in the whole country, a big one like the one you control in Shanghai. Once you can do it, I'll teach you a cultivation technique, so that you can have magical powers. I'll give you money and manpower when the time comes. I'll let you lay out your plan all over the world and surpass the Darkwind organization in the future. Mouse's eyes lit up and his heart pounded. Even though he had been forced to come here, he discovered that he had managed to grasp an enormous opportunity at a time when he had been forced into a corner. I'll definitely do it, said Mouse resolutely and decisively. Tan Xiu nodded. His fingers moved, and an ancient talisman was instantly pressed on Mouse's brows. A gorgeous red ancient talisman seemed to be imprinted on Mouse's glabella. If you want to gain something, you must pay the price. I need my subordinates to be capable, but I also need them to be loyal. I've implanted a tracking talisman on your glabella. Even if you escape from Earth, I can still sense your aura, direction, and position through this ancient talisman. 3 years later, as long as you can be unswervingly loyal to me and do what you promised, I'll remove this tracking talisman for you and train you as my trusted subordinate. Rat Shu's expression slightly changed. He subconsciously raised his hand and touched the red ancient symbol between his eyebrows. He had a strange feeling that there was an invisible thread connecting him and Tan Xiu together. He couldn't see Tan Xiu's situation on the other end of the line, but he knew that Tan Xiu could use this line to locate him. Boss, will this tracking talisman hurt me? Or are there any sequelae? Mouse was shocked by Tan Xiu's means and asked cautiously. Tan Xiu shook his head and said, there won't be any harm, and there won't be any sequelae. On the contrary, I infused the talisman into your body with primal chaos energy. It can subtly change your body with the passage of time, make your mind clearer, and after a long time, it can also improve your memory. Mouse was shocked and said gratefully, thank you, boss. The next morning, Tan Xiu looked at Jimu, who looked dispirited but had a blazing flame in his eyes. He came out from behind Mo and lightly smiled. Have you mastered all of them? All of them. Jimu nodded. Tan Xiu nodded and personally led Jimu to a room. He picked a good cultivation art from the weasel bristles and imparted it to him. Then he said, cultivation is not something that can advance by leaps and bounds in a short period of time. It's reasonable to say that you've passed the best cultivation period at your age. You'll probably need a long time to barely step into the threshold of a cultivator, if there's no external force to push you. However, considering the 2,000-year-old wild ginsengs you gave me, I'll give you a big gift when you can sense the spiritual qi in your body and can control it with your mind. It will improve your physique and increase your cultivation speed. Jimu looked happy and quickly asked, how long will it take for me to achieve what you said, Brother Tang? Tan Xiu shook his head and said, everyone's physique is different, so their cultivation speed is also different. Your aptitude is average, so I'm afraid you'll need 1.5 years to achieve it if my guess is correct. However, if you can find some precious herbs to boil, and take a lot of nutritious medicated meals during this period, you can speed it up a bit. I understand. Thanks a lot. Jimu immediately nodded. Thanks a lot. Immediately after, Tan Xiu took Jimu to the living room. He didn't let Jimu stay for a long time since he still had other things to do. After Jimu left, the shifty-eyed mouse quietly approached Tan Xiu and whispered, Boss, I didn't expect you to know the young master of the Ji family in Changxi City. This guy usually doesn't do proper work, but he's very skillful. As far as I know, he controls several channels to make money in the dark. Tan Xiu's interest was piqued and he curiously asked, tell me, what channels to make money? A construction company for KTVs, 2 leisure centers, 2 gyms and a car dealership, said Mouse. No one can investigate him because these industries are not under his name. They are managed by his most trusted people. And the legal person is also the same person. Since the young master of the Ji family often comes to Shanghai, he can be considered as half a Shanghai resident, so I sent some people to investigate him, and spent a lot of effort to find out all the details he has. According to the results of the investigation, his annual net income is more than 100 million yuan. Tan Xiu was slightly surprised, but he recalled the gifts Jimu sent him. Indeed, he must have a way to make money. However, since he has the leisure to do these things, why can't he take over the Ji family's industries? Given the Ji family's status in Changxi City, the entire family's wealth should be more than 10 billion yuan, or even tens of billions, right? He secretly shook his head. Tan Xiu didn't want to think about these things anymore. He asked Mo and learned that the person in charge of the Everlasting Feast Hall's intelligence department in Shanghai and the 10 surrounding cities had arrived, so he took Mouse to meet them. What surprised Tan Xiu was that the person in charge of Shanghai turned out to be a core member of the Everlasting Feast Hall. He also learned from Mo Ao that although this person was good at spying and gathering intelligence, his ability to control the intelligence network was a bit poor. He had even applied many times to hand over his work, while he himself wanted to go to Resting Cemetery Island in the South China Sea to cultivate. Tang Xiu, on the other hand, was very satisfied with the man's obsession with cultivation and happily agreed to his request. He even introduced all the people in the other 10 cities to Rat. First, he asked Rat to integrate the intelligence network of him and the Everlasting Feast Hall, and then establish a complete intelligence network of Shanghai and the surrounding 10 cities. Ouyang Lulu had been accompanying Tan Xiu all the time, watching him deal with each matter. Her big bright eyes flashed with splendor from time to time. She marveled at the Everlasting Feast Hall's deep heritage, and also marveled at Tan Xiu's style and skill in handling matters. "Honey, how about I take you to the University of Shanghai for classes this afternoon?" Ouyang Lulu propped her chin while looking at Tan Xiu, who was eating lunch, and asked. Tan Xiu swallowed the food in his mouth and snappily said, "I can guarantee that I'll be on the school's headlines tomorrow if you appear in my classroom. I'm afraid my classmates won't have the mood to go to class in the afternoon if you appear in my classroom." "Why?" Ouyang Lulu was puzzled. "Haven't you heard that femme fatale?" Tan Xiu said. "You're too beautiful, so those boys will definitely steal glances at you. And those women will definitely be jealous of you. Do you think they will still have the mood to go to class? Lulu, we must be a good person. It's wrong to affect other studies." Pfft. Ouyang Lulu couldn't help but laugh. Despite being indirectly rejected by Tan Xiu, she still felt sweet inside as though she had drunk honey. However, this sweet feeling only lasted for a few minutes before Han Qingwu's arrival stirred it up. She was very perceptive and could naturally see that Han Qingwu had special feelings for Tan Xiu. They were both young people, and even though Han Qingwu seemed to be a few years older than Tan Xiu, this special feeling was definitely love. "Tan Xiu, I'll take you back to campus," Han Qingwu said with a serious expression. Tan Xiu put down his chopsticks and picked up a tissue to wipe his mouth. He then nodded and said, "I didn't drive when I came here, so let's go back together." Tan Xiu sat in Han Qingwu's car and arrived at campus. There was still half an hour before the afternoon class. When he got off the car, he asked Han Qingwu about the location of the underground fighting tournament, and learned that it was in Changxi City. Ring, ring, ring. Just as Tan Xiu opened the door, his mobile suddenly rang. After looking at the caller ID, he closed the door and sat in the front passenger seat to pick up the call. "What's up?" "Boss, I just got some unexpected news. The murderer of several recent murder cases, Austin Cole from a European SW company, and more than a dozen of his men, were attacked by the military. Austin Cole was seriously injured and escaped under the protection of several of his men. Several people from the military also died." Mouse's voice came from the phone. "Did you sell the military information to them?" asked Tan Xiu. "Yes, I sold it to them," said Mouse. "Continue to look for the traces of Austin Cole and his men. If you find them, remember to find a way to notify the military," said Tan Xiu. "Also, keep an eye on Xie Jiqiang of the mind-gathering biotechnology. Since they frequently contact each other, it means that there's some secret between them that can't see the light of day. Do your best to dig out this secret for me." "No problem." Mouse replied neatly and directly hung up the phone. Tan Xiu didn't hurry to get off the car. After putting away his mobile, he took out a cigarette from Han Qingwu's car, lit it up, and took 2 puffs in silence. He knew very little about the mind-gathering biotechnology, and all he knew was from Mouse's mouth. As for Xie Jiqiang, he made a few phone calls this morning and looked for his acquaintances in the Shanghai business circle to learn more about him. Cunning, ruthless, greedy, and someone who regarded money as his life. These words could describe Xie Jiqiang's character. The mind-gathering biotechnology was engaged in the business of electronic products and biopharmaceuticals. Xie Jiqiang wasn't very famous in Shanghai, but it was said that he had a fortune of several hundred million yuan. The most important point was that Xie Jiqiang seemed to have several entertainment centers, and it was said that he also opened a security company. Chapter 699. Undercurrents were surging in Shanghai, and and some people with ulterior motives were getting restless. The recent major criminal cases had attracted the attention of countless people. But for Tan Xiao, these were just seasonings in his life. In fact, even if he didn't intervene, it wouldn't affect him much. But now, what he needed the most was to make money and cultivate. His cultivation had skyrocketed after several fortuitous encounters. Had it been when he had just returned to Earth, he felt that he could sweep away all the heroes in the world with his current strength. But ever since he met the cultivators in Kanas, he truly realized that there were many hidden dragons and crouching tigers on Earth. And there were still many powerful people. Familial love and cultivation. This was the most resolute obsession Tan Xiao had when he had just returned to Earth. He had been longing for his mother for 10,000 years. He already had familial love, and the existence of his father and family members gave him even more. As for cultivation, it could be said that there can be no construction without destruction. At the moment when he returned to being immortal, he cultivated the even stronger cultivation technique, the heavenly art of cosmic genesis. Whether it was cultivation speed or explosive power, it was the best and most suitable for him at the moment. He cultivated all night long. When the sun shone on the earth the next day, Tan Xiao woke up from his cultivation. Although he didn't sleep all night, he missed the progress of his cultivation in Nine Dragons Island, and silently thought about whether he could find time to go there again in the near future. After washing up, Tan Xiao had yet to eat breakfast when he received a call from Han Qinggu. It was because he had to accompany Han Qinggu to Changxi City to participate in the underground boxing match. After agreeing to meet at the gate of Shanghai University, Tan Xiao directly rushed there without eating breakfast. To his surprise, Han Qinggu was already waiting for him there. "Have you eaten yet?" asked Han Qinggu. "Have you eaten yet?" Tan Xiao shook his head. "If not, let's find a place to fill our stomachs first." "That's right, when will the boxing match start?" Han Qinggu shook her head, then nodded and said, 8 o'clock in the evening. "What?" Tan Xiao's expression froze. He was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he said, "Are you kidding me, big sis? The boxing match will start at 8 o'clock in the evening. You want to gather with me now? Don't tell me we're going to Changxi right now, and then stare at each other until nightfall?" Han Qinggu looked a little embarrassed. The reason why she called Tan Xiao early in the morning was that she was afraid that something would happen to Tan Xiao, and he would not be able to accompany her. In addition, she also wanted to spend more time with Tan Xiao. Ever since the freshman welcoming party last September, a figure had been deeply imprinted in her mind, and this figure was almost identical to Tan Xiao. Furthermore, to her disbelief, Tan Xiao's appearance often appeared in her mind. She would even think about what Tan Xiao was doing. Had he eaten? Will he come to school today? Can I see him today? As for the moment when she saw Tan Xiao, even though Tan Xiao's attitude made her a bit uncomfortable, she still felt happy from the bottom of her heart. Even her mood would involuntarily become happy. She had never been in love, but from hearsay, books, or TV, she could tell that she had fallen in love. No, it should be said that she had fallen in love. Moreover, it was the worst kind of secret love. Han Qinggu sometimes felt that it was inconceivable that she actually fell in love with her own student. Moreover, this student was several years younger than her. But when she thought about what Tan Xiao had done, she gradually felt relieved. Tan Xiao was not a pure student at all. If he wanted to, he could even be a national professor. How many people in the world could compare with his ability? However, she was also very distressed. Tan Xiao's luck in love affairs was really too exuberant. She knew that the number of girls who were better than her, be it in terms of figure, appearance, temperament, or ability, could be counted with just one hand. The taste of secret love. It was sweet and bitter at the same time. Therefore, ever since a cultivation technique inexplicably appeared in her mind, and she encountered danger in Jingmen Island, she began to go all out to cultivate and strengthen herself. She even went all out to cultivate so that she wouldn't be left behind by Tan Xiao. So much so that she didn't hesitate to take risks out of desperation and participate in the underground fighting tournament. I have a good sister in Changxi City, but I haven't seen her for more than half a year, so I want to go there in advance to meet her. Han Qingwu's voice sounded a bit weak. Since you want to meet your good sister, it's not appropriate for me to go with you, no? Tan Xiu said helplessly. How about you go to Changxi City first? I'll catch up with you in the evening. I'll call you then, and we'll meet at the underground fighting tournament's venue. Han Qingwu felt bitter inwardly. With a bit of expectation on her face, she said, I'm just going to have lunch with my good sister at noon. Let's go together, all right? She knows that I'm single, and I'm afraid that she'll introduce a boyfriend to me after we meet. Tan Xiu was not a fool. He instantly understood Han Qingwu's meaning. She wanted to use him as a shield. After hesitating for a while, he nodded and said, All right. I don't have anything important to do today anyway, so I'll say it first. You treat me at noon. No problem. Han Qingwu was happy inwardly and happily replied. She quickly walked to the front seat of her red BMW and personally opened the door for Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu secretly shook his head. After sitting inside, he saw that Han Qingwu had also boarded the car and said, By the way, I want to ask you something. Is there only one cultivation technique in your mind? Han Qingwu started the car and silently nodded. Only one. Tan Xiu knew what cultivation technique Han Qingwu was practicing, so he shook his head and sighed. Your grandpa also wants to get a more advanced cultivation technique. Since you can't give it to him, then I'll find some time to give him one. At his age, even if he gets a more advanced cultivation technique, he won't be able to achieve much in the future. However, if he can break through again, he'll be able to live for a few more decades. Cultivation can increase one's lifespan? Han Qingwu was surprised. Tan Xiu was stunned. He didn't expect that Han Qingwu didn't even know this common sense. However, after recalling the fragmented memories that appeared in her mind, he felt relieved and explained. A cultivator's lifespan will continue to increase along with their cultivation. You should be at the late stage of qi refining now, and you should have a lifespan of 120 years if nothing unexpected happens. But when you break through to the foundation establishment stage or even the late stage, it's not impossible for your lifespan to increase to 200 years. Fortunately, Han Qingwu still had a bit of mental fortitude, else she would have had a car accident at this moment due to her mind being shaken. Even so, her heart was trembling incessantly, and she became even more passionate about cultivating. As time passed by, the car passed through the highway toll station and officially entered the highway. Only then did Han Qingwu ask, Are all the people in the everlasting feast hall cultivators? Only the core group of more than 100 people are cultivators, answered Tan Xiu. The corner of Han Qingwu's mouth slightly twitched a few times. More than 100 cultivators were beyond her expectation. Thinking about the scene, she was shocked to find that Tan Xiu actually had such a huge armed force under his control. If he wanted to expand his forces and obtain more power, he could probably use force alone to increase his forces by 10-fold, or even 100-fold. 10 o'clock in the morning. Han Qingwu and Tan Xiu arrived at Changxi. Since the appointed time with her good sister hadn't arrived yet, Han Qingwu parked the car near a shopping mall. She then turned to look at Tan Xiu and asked, Do you have any place you want to go? This is my first time coming to Changxi, so I'm not familiar with this place. Tan Xiu shook his head. You decide. I'm just here to accompany you today. A smile outlined on the corner of Han Qingwu's mouth. She was in a good mood and immediately suggested, How about we go to the film base near the university town to play? The last time I came here, I didn't go there to have a look. I heard that there are often film crews shooting movies there. Tan Xiu had no interest in shooting movies, but since Han Qingwu suggested it, he didn't bother to haggle over it. Only half an hour later, the duo arrived at the film city. The weather in March and April was still a bit chilly even though Changxi was located in the south. There were a lot of people in the film city, and after a simple understanding, the duo learned that there were indeed several film crews shooting movies here. However, there didn't seem to be any famous big shot here. I heard that there's an opportunity to play a small role in a film crew when they come here to play. My good sister has been very fond of coming here to join in the fun a few years ago. She has also acted as an extra in several TV series and movies. How about we try it? Han Qingwu was a bit eager to give it a try. Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and quickly stopped her, saying, There's only an hour left before the appointed time with your good sister. Even if we go to play a small role, I'm afraid we won't be able to finish it in an hour or two, no? You're right. Han Qingwu gave it a thought and eventually gave up the idea with a bit of regret. Tan Xiu secretly curled his lips and disdained Han Qingwu's idea. Although he wasn't a person from the entertainment circle, he, Qin Xiaoyang, and Chui had formed a partnership to open an entertainment group company, and had invested billions of yuan in it. It was likely that Qin Xiaoyang had signed a contract with a lot of celebrities up until now. If Qin Xiaoyang and Chui were to find out that he was the boss and play a small role, wouldn't they laugh their heads off? As the duo strolled around, it was already 11:30 p.m. Han Qingwu had contacted her good sister before, so she directly came here and stood in front of them. She had a height of 1.8 meters and wore flat shoes. She had a good figure, but her appearance was a bit ordinary. Her other advantage was that she was very fair. As the saying goes, one's fair complexion could cover 100 ugliness, which added a lot of points to this woman. Handsome. Are you the man that Xiaowu yearns for day and night? Yu Hong crossed her arms and looked at Tan Xiu for a while before asking with a smile, yet not a smile. Tan Xiu glanced at Han Qingwu and found her pretty face blushing. He immediately coughed twice and said, "Hello, beauty. I'm Miss Han's student. I heard that her good sister is still single, so I came here for a blind date. You're not bad. You have a good figure and good looks. How about we go to a movie date now?" "I'll go." Chapter 700. Yu Hong was dumbfounded. Even if she had a straightforward character and could compete with pure men, she was still shocked by Tan Xiu's words. Even her sensual mouth was opened wide. What's going on? Yu Hong turned her head to look at Han Qingwu with difficulty. Han Qingwu couldn't help but cover her mouth and giggle again and again. She didn't expect that Tan Xiu's mouth would be so powerful. Just a few words were enough to make her sharp-tongued good sister at a loss. Yu Hong was a smart woman. Upon seeing Han Qingwu's expression, she realized that she was teased by Tan Xiu. With a bit of anger, she snappily scolded with a smile. "Sure enough, there's nothing good about handsome people. Qingwu, you gotta be careful of this guy. Maybe he's the kind of person who loves everyone he sees." Han Qingwu's thoughts were suddenly poked, and the smile on her face receded like a tide. She glanced at Tan Xiu without a trace and immediately pulled Yu Hong's hand, saying, "Let's not talk about this. I'm hungry now. Let's find a place to eat first." Yu Hong rolled her eyes and said with a smile, "Qingwu, do you want to eat with me and watch the fun at the same time? There's going to be a big event in Changxi today. At this time, it should be starting soon." "What big event?" Han Qingwu asked with a confused expression. Yu Hong chuckled mysteriously and pulled her away. Because Yu Hong drove here, the two cars soon arrived at a high-end restaurant in Changxi City. After parking the car, the trio went to the window on the second floor and sat down. "Qingwu, you order the dishes and I'll take a look. We must not miss today's good show." Yu Hong directly pushed the menu in front of Han Qingwu and looked at the street outside the restaurant's entrance with a playful expression. Tan Xiu was not a gossipy person, but his curiosity was aroused by Yu Hong's mysterious appearance. His eyes involuntarily glanced outside. 2 or 3 minutes later, Tan Xiu's eyes suddenly focused and fell on several youths. To be precise, he was looking at the leader of these youths. Jimu? Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? I seem to know him in Changxi City, but I didn't expect to see him here. The show is about to begin. Yu Hong reached out and pulled Han Qingwu over. She leaned close to her and looked downstairs through the window. Her eyes were filled with joy, as if she was ready to watch the show. Hong, don't keep me guessing. What's going on?" Han Qingwu's curiosity was piqued and she asked. "Don't be impatient." Yu Hong was still keeping them guessing. Creak. On the street outside the restaurant, 8 luxurious sedans whistled over and stopped in front of the restaurant with a screeching sound. Each of the 8 luxury supercars had a different color and brand. The same ones were likely to be very expensive. Hua. The doors of the 8 supercars were pushed open at the same time. More than 20 people in black leather clothes, holding different shaped signs, balloons, flowers, champagne, ribbons and firecrackers got off the bus. Among them, two empty-handed women quickly came to the fourth supercar and opened the door. A girl in a white wedding dress and holding a big bouquet of bright red roses came out of the car. She was about 24 or 25 years old and looked very beautiful. After getting off the car, she took the microphone handed to her and said aloud, "Jimu, I'm Ran. Come out." Inside the restaurant, Jimu, who was going up the stairs, suddenly shivered when he heard the loud voice. A smile uglier than crying appeared on his handsome face. He turned to look at his buddies behind him and angrily shouted, "Who sold me out? How did Ran know I'm here? My wife and I have a mobile GPS. She knows that I'll have lunch with you today," replied a young man with a hollow laugh. "Fuck you." Jimu wanted to run away, but he found that the people below the stairs and coming down from upstairs were looking at him with curious eyes, giving him a headache. Ran, the little princess of Changxi City's Renjia, was the most famous girl in the entire city and also the one who gave him the most headaches. The young man behind him grinned and said, "Brother Ji, since Renjia has come here to find you, then don't hide from her anymore. Meet her and see her. If you really don't have any feelings for her, then we'll talk about whether you accept her or not." Jimu stared blankly and asked with a confused expression, "Did you know that there would be such a scene today?" The young man secretly laughed inwardly. Apart from him, there were many other people who knew about it. Even for this day, his group of buddies and his wife's sisters had been helping to plan it for a long time. However, he would never admit it even if he was beaten to death when facing Jimu's question. Shaking his head like a rattledrum, the young man quickly said, "I really didn't know about it. Else, given our brotherhood, wouldn't I have tipped you off long ago?" Jimu rolled his eyes at him. Then he gritted his teeth and walked down the stairs. When he came outside, he was startled upon seeing the scene outside and snappily called out, "What the hell are you doing, Ran? Ran didn't care about Jimu's words. She came to Jimu while holding the roses and spoke very seriously. "Jimu, since you won't propose to me, then I'll take the initiative to propose to you. Both of us can delay it, but the child in my belly really can't be delayed. Promise me, marry me." "Child?" Jimu felt as though he was struck by a lightning bolt and was charred on the inside and tender on the outside. He still clearly remembered that more than 2 months ago, he happened to meet Ran and several of her friends when he was drinking in a certain entertainment club. As a result, the two tables were joined together. That night, he was a bit drunk and was carelessly cheated by Ran. He dared to swear to God that he was absolutely careless. Only when he woke up the next day and saw the naked Ran in his arms did he realize that he was tricked by her. However, since he didn't suffer any losses at that time, he didn't mind it too much. After all, there were many women who played with him in the past. But who would have thought that ever since that time, Ran would run to him every 3 to 5 days. He even hid from her for more than half a month and didn't dare to come out to have fun. However, just because of what happened more than 2 months ago, Ran became pregnant with a jade? It was impossible. By the window on the second floor, Tan Xiao wore a faint smile as he looked at Jimu below. The smile on the corner of his mouth turned thicker. Even Yu Hong pulled Han Qinggu and muttered, "Did you see that? This man is even more amazing when he's lucky with women." The dignified young master of the Ji family in Changxi City is actually proposed to by a woman. This will definitely cause a storm in the city and everyone will know about it. Speaking of which, I really admire that Ran girl. She usually doesn't show her talents. But who would have thought that she would be so bold and even have a child? It's indeed a wonderful show. Han Qinggu nodded and echoed. It's always a man proposing to a woman in the past. But today, the tables have turned and it's the woman's turn to propose to a man. I wonder if Jimu will agree or not. After saying that, she deliberately glanced at Tan Xiao. Tan Xiao was keenly aware that Han Qinggu glanced at him and was secretly speechless. Why did she look at him without any rhyme or reason? He thought about it and casually said, "I bet that Jimu won't agree." Yu Hong and Han Qinggu looked at him at the same time. The expressions of the two women were different. Yu Hong was full of confusion, while Han Qingwu's expression was a bit complicated. Why? Asked Yu Hong curiously. Naturally, Tan Xiao couldn't tell her that Ji Mu had just obtained a cultivation technique from him. At this time, cultivation was the most important thing to him. How could he possibly delay his cultivation for a woman's love? However, under Yu Hong's curious gaze, he lightly coughed and said, "There's no why, let alone the fallacy of a man chasing a woman is separated by a mountain, while a woman chasing a man is separated by a layer of muslin. Even if Ji Mu impregnates that woman, I'm afraid he won't have much love for her. Else it shouldn't be that woman proposing to Ji Mu, but Ji Mu proposing to that woman." "What you said makes sense," said Yu Hong thoughtfully. "Ji Mu may not be a romantic or lecherous person, but he also has some girlfriends. Given his identity and character, he won't waver even if 100 women come to propose to him, unless he really likes the other party." "But I guess you're definitely wrong. Why are you so sure?" asked Tan Xiao after staring blankly for a moment. "The Ji family is the royal family of Changxi City, definitely one of the top families," said Yu Hong. "But the Ren family is also very powerful in Changxi City. Even the second in command of Changxi City is the younger brother of their patriarch, who is also Ren Ranran's uncle. Ji Mu won't refuse Ren Ranran in public even if it's for the sake of the reputation of the Ji and Ren families. At most, he and Ren Ranran will have a private talk." Tan Xiao thought for a while and shook his head. "I still have the same opinion. He won't agree." "How about we make a bet?" asked Yu Hong with a faint smile. "What bet?" asked Tan Xiao. Yu Hong pondered for a while and suddenly grinned. "How about you propose to my Qinggu if I win?" Tan Xiao rolled his eyes. Although he felt that she had touched his sore spot, he still asked, "But what if you lose?" Yu Hong said in disbelief. "How could I lose?" "Accidents happen all the time," said Tan Xiao indifferently. "Maybe you'll really lose." Yu Hong hesitated for a moment and then seriously said, "If I lose, I'll treat you and Qinggu to a big meal. It won't be a problem for us to eat for a month." "A big meal?" Tan Xiao rolled his eyes and snappily said, "It's totally unrelated. Yet you're stirring things up. However, since you insist on taking the bet, I won't back down. Just wait and see. Ji Mu will definitely refuse Ren Ranran in public in less than 3 minutes. It's the end of the month. I'm begging for some monthly votes. I'll be forever grateful." Chapter 701. Yu Hong sneered at Tan Xiao's words. She had lived in Changxi for so many years. Although her Yu family wasn't one of the top families in Changxi, it was at least ranked in the middle. So, she naturally understood the thoughts of the younger generation. This farce was related to the faces of the two families. Even if Ji Mu was full of arrogance, he probably wouldn't do something that would make both families lose face. At first, she had a good impression of Tan Xiao. After all, he was the man her good sister liked. But now it seemed that this guy was just a guy who couldn't figure out the situation, and kept running his mouth off. The most important thing was that he dared to bet with her, which was simply asking for humiliation. At the entrance of the restaurant, Ren Ranran had an expectant look on her face, but in her heart, she firmly believed that Ji Mu wouldn't refuse her. Under the instigation of her good sister, this was a risky move. She liked Ji Mu and even had a deep affection for him. But she also knew that Ji Mu should only have a good impression of her before, and it hadn't risen to the level of liking and love. "Ji Mu, you know my character. I used to hate this kind of trick of family marriage the most. But ever since you sent me to the hospital when I was sick 3 years ago, I found myself liking you. The longer time passed, the deeper my feelings for you became. My feelings for you are very pure, not mixed with any factor of your identity. I, Ren Ranran, like you as a person. Even if you have nothing, I'm willing to follow you with all my heart. Promise me marry me." Ji Mu frowned, looking at Ren Ranran with eyes full of anger. "Child, is this a bargaining chip?" She was using his and her identity to force him in front of everyone. Ji Mu sneered inwardly and took out a cigarette under the watchful eyes of everyone. He didn't want to hurt Ren Ranran, but he also didn't want to be forced. If it were a few days ago, he might have temporarily agreed due to the pressure of their identities. But now, Ren Ranran, I used to think that you were a very smart woman. At least, after that incident, you didn't pester me. Even if we could continue our relationship step by step like before, I would also like you. But, what you did today was very stupid. Are you threatening me with a child? You're threatening me with the status of our two families in Changxi. I, Jimu, am not a person who treats feelings as child's play. If there really are feelings between us, you don't need to force me. I will take the initiative to court you and promise you a lifetime of happiness. But now, I refuse. Ren Ranran was dumbfounded. Never in her wildest dreams did she expect that Jimu's reaction would be so intense. He even hated her behavior so much. Was it wrong? Was it wrong to love him? She had given her body to him. She had really impregnated his child. Why? Why didn't they care about the reputation of the two families and rejected him so heartlessly? Tears dripped down like beads from a broken necklace. Ren Ranran desperately shook her head. The hand holding the microphone was trembling as she loudly said, Jimu, I didn't force you or threaten you. I just want you to know that I really love you. For you, I, Ren Ranran, am willing to throw away all the modesty of a girl and throw away that reputation. I just want to be with you. Sorry. Jimu shook his head indifferently. Second floor window. Yu Hong was tongue-tied as she looked at the scene. She had a big brain to begin with, yet she couldn't think at this moment. Even when he turned his head to look at Tang Xiu, disbelief was written all over his face. How is this possible? Her voice trembled a bit. Tang Xiu let out an indifferent smile. He already knew that this would be the result. If Jimu hadn't obtained an immortal cultivation technique from him, perhaps he wouldn't have the courage to refuse. At least, he would have taken the Ji and Ren families' faces into consideration. But now, even if he refused, the elders of the Ji family wouldn't blame him. They wouldn't even dare to blame him. I'm busy for the next month, so I'm afraid I won't be able to enjoy the feast you invited. But Miss Han has a lot of time. If you're willing to fulfill your promise, you can invite her to the feast. Yu Hong opened her mouth. Her face was a bit embarrassed and flushed. She recalled how she despised Tan Xiu when they made the bet just now, and she felt that she was even more ridiculous. Tan Xiu, do you know Jimu? An idea suddenly sprouted in Yu Hong's mind, and she immediately asked. Tan Xiu didn't conceal it and nodded. I know him. I've met him a few times. Yu Hong was speechless. She originally thought that Tan Xiu didn't know the situation, and was just bragging. She didn't expect that he even knew the young master of the Ji family. It seemed that he wasn't bragging when he made the bet with her, but he was really confident. She didn't know the situation and even foolishly despised him. Thinking up to here, Yu Hong wished she could find a hole to burrow into. She really didn't have the face to see anyone. Tan Xiu looked at the tearful Ren Ranran below. Suddenly his expression moved and he looked at Yu Hong again, saying with a smile, Do you dare to make another bet? Yu Hong rolled her eyes at Tan Xiu and said with a wry smile, I've been tricked by you. What else is there to bet? I bet that Jimu will go back on his words and accept Ren Ranran. Do you believe me? Tan Xiu lightly smiled. Yu Hong stared blankly for a moment before she rolled her eyes and said, Are you all right with me? Jimu has already sternly refused in public. With his character, how could he possibly go back on his words? Then, do you want to bet with him? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. Yu Hong hesitated for a moment before she gritted her teeth and said, Fine. If you win, I'll treat you to a feast for 2 months. But if you lose, we'll call it even. Deal. Tang Xiu let out a mischievous chuckle. He stood up and pressed his hands on the window. He looked down and shouted, Young Master Ji, when a woman puts down her dignity and pours her heart out to the man she loves, it means that the man has really earned it. Besides, she's pregnant with your child, so shouldn't you have some responsibility as a man? I heard that irresponsible men will have a bad reputation. That's right. Someone once told me that chopping firewood doesn't delay the sharpening of a knife. Even if you have a lot of other important things, you still have to have a family sooner or later. Below. Upon hearing the familiar voice, Jimu suddenly froze. When he looked up and saw Tan Xiu, disbelief filled his eyes. Never did he expect that he would see Tan Xiu here. Immediately after, the awkwardness made him smile wryly inwardly. To think that Tan Xiao would actually see him as the protagonist. It was simply shameful. However, he thought about it and suddenly felt that what Tan Xiao said made sense. Since Ren Ranran didn't even want a woman's modesty and dignity, it meant that she had sealed all her escape routes, indicating that her feelings for him were sincere. Chopping firewood doesn't delay the sharpening of a knife. The other things mentioned by Tan Xiao should be referring to cultivation. Having a family at the same time as cultivating would indeed not have any impact on it. Responsibility? Responsibility? Jimu's expression constantly changed, and he slowly clenched his fists. Ren Ranran, on the other hand, was full of gratitude after hearing Tan Xiao's words. She didn't know Tan Xiao, but she secretly decided that regardless of whether Jimu would eventually accept her or not, she would still express her gratitude to him. At this moment, in the crowd, a woman in a black leather coat and holding a helmet suddenly stroked the hair on her forehead. She looked up at Tan Xiao and loudly said, "Hey handsome, you're a man with a sense of responsibility since you can say such words. May I ask if you have a girlfriend? If not, why don't you consider me?" The smile on Tan Xiao's face suddenly froze. He scratched the back of his head and was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he said, "I'm sorry. I have a good wife at home, so I can't find a bed for her." After that, he directly retracted his head and picked up the teacup with a bit of embarrassment. Han Qinggu didn't speak, but the smile on the corner of her mouth never faded. She couldn't help but burst into laughter when she saw Tan Xiao's slightly embarrassed expression, and how he tried to conceal his embarrassment by holding the teacup. Although Tan Xiao had just made a bet with her good sister, Yu Hong, it was, after all, a good deed that made her feel that Tan Xiao had done a good job. Yu Hong, on the other hand, couldn't help but roll her eyes upon hearing Tan Xiao's words. At this moment, she saw her good sister, Han Qinggu, looking at Tan Xiao with eyes that were almost shining. She couldn't help but say, "Tan Xiao Jimu is the young master of the Ji family in Changxi City. He's always had his eyes on the top of his head. Do you think he'll change his mind just because of those superficial words you just said? Dream on. Who knows whether he'll change his mind or not?" Tan Xiao put down the teacup and shrugged as he lightly smiled. At the entrance of the restaurant, Jimu's expression was constantly changing. He looked deeply at Ren Ranran, whose face was full of tears and expectation. Finally, he sighed secretly and walked a few steps forward. After coming to the front of Ren Ranran, he gently wiped the tears on her face and said, "I really can't give you a passionate love. But if you're willing, give me 3 days and I'll tell the elders of my family to go to the Ren family to propose marriage. Even if we don't get married for the time being, we can still get engaged first. Love is not a child's play. Give me some time and I'll slowly cultivate it." Ren Ranran blinked and tears gushed out of her eyes again. This time, they were not tears of sadness but tears of joy. With an excited look on her face, she nodded and hugged Jimu. Then she quickly said, "Wait for me." After that, she lifted the hem of her wedding dress and quickly rushed into the restaurant. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, she went to the second floor and came to the front of Tan Xiao, who was sitting by the window. With a sincere and grateful expression, she bowed deeply and said, "Thank you very much, sir. I'm Ren Ranran of the Ren family. If it weren't for your words today, I'm afraid I would have lost my love and future happiness. This Ren Ranran will always remember your kindness. If you need my help in the future, I'll definitely do my best to do it." This girl is good. Tan Xiao secretly nodded inside. Chapter 702. Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and glanced at Yu Hong, whose face was blushing and head was about to drill under the table. He casually nodded and smilingly said, "I'm naturally happy to help you achieve your dreams. You don't need to worry about it and just live a good life in the future." At this moment, Jimu also came to the second floor. Although Changxi was his turf, he still respectfully spoke to Tan Xiao after standing in front of him. "Brother Tang, Jimu has learned a lot from your words. I didn't know that you came to Changxi, so I didn't treat you well as a host. I hope you can forgive me. I just came here for a private matter, so please don't be so courteous with me." Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, "All right. I've already recognized you as my wife, and you're about to have a child. Hurry up and take your wife back to rest." "How can I do that?" Jimu quickly said. "Brother Tang, you've come here, so I must treat you to a meal. Also, I'll immediately book a hotel for you if you're staying in Changxi for a few more days. If you're not used to staying in a hotel, I have a villa in Changxi that I haven't lived in before. You can stay there anytime." Everyone in the surroundings was dumbfounded the moment his words came out. Even Jimu's friends, who called him brothers, were dumbfounded as if they couldn't believe what they had just heard. Even Yu Hong was shocked at this time. Although she knew that her good sister, Han Qinggu, had a crush on a student, she also knew that the student seemed to be quite capable. He had already started his own business and had his own company when he was just a freshman. However, she did not know more than that. But now it seemed. Wasn't this Tan Xiu too amazing? Even the young master of the Ji family in Changxi was so respectful in front of him? How was this possible? Could it be that this Tan Xiu's identity was very noble? Could it be that his family was much more powerful than the Ji family? At the same time, Ren Ranran was also dumbfounded. She could tell from Jimu's words that not only did he know this young man who helped her, but he was also very respectful toward him. She knew Jimu very well. There was absolutely no young man in Changxi who could earn such respect from Jimu. Even in the whole province, such a person was as rare as a phoenix feather and a qilin horn. But who was this benefactor in front of him? Who the hell was he? Who could make Jimu act so respectfully? Tan Xiu looked at the shocked faces around him and helplessly said, "Jimu, your woman is pregnant. She just experienced great sorrow and joy, so she needs a good rest to stabilize her pregnancy. Also, I'm just following my friend here to settle some personal matters. I'll be returning to Shanghai tonight, so you don't have to worry about me." Jimu glanced at Ren Ranran's belly and hesitated for a moment before replying, "All right then. I'll send her back first. I'll come back to accompany her after I settle her down. Brother Tang, this is Changxi City, and I'm the local tyrant here. I can help you if you encounter any small problems. Are you a dog skin plaster?" Tan Xiu said with dissatisfaction. After saying that, he felt that he didn't give Jimu any face, so he added, "Since you have nothing to do, then come here later." "All right." Jimu was a bit embarrassed at first, but Tan Xiu's words immediately made him happy. He grabbed Ren Ranran's hand and was about to go downstairs. Looking at their backs, Tan Xiu suddenly said, "I'll give you a big gift after you get married. Remember to inform me when the time comes." Jimu halted his pace. His heartbeat sped up a few beats, and he immediately turned around to express his gratitude before leaving with a confused Ren Ranran. After this incident, everyone in the restaurant knew that Tan Xiu was a great figure, a super big shot that even the Ji family's young master had to be respectful to. No one dared to come over and strike up a conversation with him, since they were all weighing whether they were qualified or not. At this moment, Yu Hong's mouth was opened so wide that it would not be a problem for her to stuff a duck egg into it. With a shocked expression on her face, it took her a few minutes to sober up as though she had just woken up from a dream. She gulped down her saliva and looked at Han Qinggu, who was eating with her head lowered. She looked restless and asked, Tan Xiu, who exactly are you?" "Jimu, he's a man full of pride. How come he's like a grandson in front of you?" Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and snappily said with a smile, "You're a great beauty, so you should have some virtue in your mouth. I haven't married a wife yet, and I don't even have a son, so how can I have a grandson? I told you that I've met Jimu a few times, and he's my friend." Yu Hong pursed her lips, showing a look of disbelief. Han Qingwu suddenly raised her head and looked at Yu Hong, saying, "Hurry up and eat, Hong Hong. The food has been served for a while, and it's going to get cold if you don't eat it. Let's eat." Yu Hong could see that Tan Xiu didn't want to say it, so she could only suppress the doubt in her heart. Downstairs in the restaurant, Jimu sat in the driver's seat of the red Ferrari driven by Ren Ranran. After starting the car, it headed to the distance. Ren Ranran, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, looked a bit confused despite feeling very satisfied inwardly. She asked, "Jimu, that Tang, who is Mr. Tang? You seem to value him very much?" Jimu glanced at Ran and slowly said, "His identity is very special, so I can't tell you now. But keep in mind that you can provoke anyone in this world in the future, but you must never provoke him." "He's very powerful?" Ran asked in horror. A bitter smile appeared on Jimu's face as he sighed. "He's more than powerful. If he wants to destroy my Ji family and your Ren family, it's as easy as pinching an ant to death." This, Ran was thoroughly shaken. She had heard a lot of powerful characters, but she had never heard of anyone who could easily destroy the Ji and Ren families. Even if he was the descendant of those real rich and powerful families in the imperial capital, he probably couldn't do it, right? But she didn't think that Jimu was boasting. What the hell was going on? Jimu seemed to be aware of Ran's thoughts and explained, Ran, there are a lot of people in this world that we can't afford to provoke. I'll tell you the truth. I've already belittled his strength by using those words to describe how powerful he is. Do you know about those real rich and powerful families in the imperial capital? Even those real rich and powerful families are inferior to ants in his eyes. Remember my words. Don't look at him with normal eyes and be respectful in front of him. Even if he wants to kill us, we must take the initiative to give him our hearts." Hiss! Ran sucked in a breath of cold air, and felt a chill run down her spine. Jimu felt that what he said wasn't enough, so he simply said, "Forget it. I'll tell you something else. He's the big boss behind the magnificent Tang Corporation, and also the descendant of the Tang family in the imperial capital. But everything he has nothing to do with the Tang family. I'm afraid that even 100 of the Tang family combined can't compare to him. Isn't he a god?" Ran's lips trembled. Jimu suddenly felt that Ran's description was correct. In his opinion, Tan Xiu was a god, a kind of aloof and terrifying demon god. You can also describe him in this way. Ran was thoroughly shocked and only recovered after a long while. Then she said, "I just saw Yu Hong. She seems to know that Mr. Tang." Jimu stared blankly for a moment before a thoughtful look appeared on his face. After half a minute he slowly said, "You should get closer to Yu Hong if you have the chance in the future. Also, tell your Ren family's elders to have a good relationship with the Yu family later." Ran was very smart and immediately understood Jimu's meaning. After the Ferrari supercar drove far away, Jimu then said in a soft voice, Ran, we're old acquaintances who know each other very well. We also know each other's characters. You're pregnant with my child, so I'll naturally take responsibility for it. But feelings can't be forced. I hope we can get along well in the future. I believe that feelings can be cultivated slowly. Let's get engaged first, and the elders of the family will discuss the issue of marriage after the engagement. All right. I'll listen to you. Ran didn't want the happiness to slip away from her hands, so she immediately nodded happily. Time fleeted by. Tan Xiu, Han Qinggu, and Yu Hong finished their lunch and didn't rush to leave. They ordered the waiter to clean the table, ordered a pot of tea, and waited for Jimu's arrival. In the meantime, Tan Xiu didn't speak much, and just quietly listened to Yu Hong and Han Qinggu talking about some interesting things they encountered in life. It wasn't until 2:30 p.m. that Jimu hurriedly came back. "We have something to do at 8 p.m., and we haven't figured out where to go in the afternoon. Do you have any suggestions?" asked Tan Xiu. Jimu stared blankly for a moment and asked in astonishment, "Are you here to watch the underground boxing match, Brother Tang?" "You also know about the underground boxing match?" asked Tan Xiu. "I naturally know that the national underground boxing match will be held in Changxi," said Jimu with a smile. "Actually, I don't have much time tonight, but because of this underground boxing match, I came out with my friends to have dinner and watch it in the evening." "Then let's go together tonight." Tan Xiu nodded. "Let's arrange our time in the afternoon first." Jimu pondered for a moment and asked, "How about going to the Red Pavilion? You can drink tea there, and also listen to plays. If you want to watch a concert, there will be one in the afternoon. If the two ladies are willing, I happen to know the manager of the Red Pavilion's beauty area. They can go there for a beauty treatment." "Does the Red Pavilion have a gym?" asked Han Qinggu all of a sudden. "There is a fitness area," said Jimu with a nod. Then let's go there. Han Qinggu said. That's right, Hong Hong. Don't you have something to do in the afternoon? You don't need to accompany us. We'll contact you again after you finish your business. Yu Hong hesitated for a moment before saying, It's all right. I'll call them later and push the matter aside. Even young Master Ji can spare some time to accompany us, if I were to leave. Han Qinggu didn't want Yu Hong to know that she was going to participate in the underground boxing match, so she said, There's really no need. You can go first if you have something to do, and we'll contact each other later. I'll feel uncomfortable if you delay your business because of me. Chapter 703. Changshi City was not a first-tier or second-tier city, but the construction and development of southern cities were still very prosperous. The entertainment facilities here were not much worse than those in Shanghai. The Red House was a large-scale comprehensive entertainment center with a variety of leisure and entertainment programs. In the fitness area, Han Qinggu had taken off her coat and put on a black vest and sweatpants. Tonight's boxing match was very important to her, so she didn't dare to relax. Her purpose for coming here was to warm up in advance and adjust her body and mind to the best condition. With her current strength, it was not a problem for her to throw a punch of 500 kilograms. She had been trained by the experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall and participated in dozens of underground boxing matches, so she could be considered as a seasoned fighter. Standing in front of the dumbbells, her movements were very casual, and she didn't even feel strenuous when picking up the heaviest dumbbells. Big brother Chong, there's a bell here. Her figure is amazing. At the entrance of the fitness area, two young men came in with towels. One of them had a protruding mouth and monkey-like cheeks with sweat on his forehead. After seeing Han Qinggu exercising, his eyes suddenly lit up as he whistled and grinned. Zhou Chong raised his brows. After his eyes lingered on Han Qinggu's body for a few times, he nodded and said, She's indeed the best. She has a great figure and curves. Chen Shuai, do you want to have a match and see who can take her down today? Chen Shuai rolled his eyes and snorted. Match? Do you think I'm a masochist? Every time I play this trick, I lose to you every time. God is so fucking unfair. Why don't they give me a more handsome face? Good looks can't be eaten. Zhou Chong laughed and said, Though most women's first impression is based on their looks, there are also a few who look at their inner qualities. Maybe that bell is the special case I'm talking about? It's 100 yuan. Do you dare to play or not? Chen Shuai stared blankly for a moment before he frowned and said, Do you really want to play that big? Zhou Chong nodded with a smile. Chen Shuai thought for a moment, and then said with a reckless expression, Let's play then. Let's see who's afraid of whom. At worst, I don't want my pocket money for the next few months. Just wait here. I'll definitely win and bring that bell here. Let's wait and see. Zhou Chong crossed his arms and said with a smile. Chen Shuai tidied up his clothes and revealed a confident smile. After coming to Han Qingwu's side, he tried to pretend to be a gentleman and said, Hey beauty, wanna talk? Han Qingwu glanced at him, and then directly treated him as heir. Because of her looks and figure, men often tried to flirt with her. She almost always chose to ignore these lectures. Chen Shuai seemed to have expected such a result, and didn't look discouraged. He approached Han Qingwu half a step and whispered, Beauty, I'm betting with my buddy on whether I can take you down or not. As long as you're willing to put on an act, I'll give you half. How about it? A look of disgust flashed across Han Qingwu's eyes, but she still did not respond. Chen Shuai frowned and thought for a moment before he quickly said, I said 100 yuan, but it's actually 1 million yuan. I know I'm not very handsome, and very few women would like me, but since I've made the bet, I have to win this time, right? I'll give you 500,000 yuan as long as you're willing to put on an act with me. Scram. Han Qingwu indifferently spat out a word. Chen Shuai's expression froze and he stared blankly at Han Qingwu for a long time. Then he suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, You know Bitao Group in Changshi, right? I'm the son of Bitao Group's chairman, Chen Shuai. As long as you're willing to put on an act with me, I'll give you the 1 million yuan I won. Scram. I don't want to say it for the third time. Han Qingwu coldly said. Chen Shuai was anxious. He didn't expect this woman to be so ungrateful and insatiable. A 1 million yuan play was only a few minutes, yet she didn't even want to give him face. If it weren't for the bet with Zhou Chong, he really wanted to slap this stinky woman. Don't be so ungrateful. If you offend me to earn a living in Changxi, you won't have a good ending. I'll give you one last chance. If you still don't want to change your mind before I turn around and go to my buddy, then don't blame me for not giving you face later. Having said that, Chen Shuai turned around and left with a heart full of anger. Han Qingwu finally looked at Chen Shuai again, and secretly sighed inwardly. There were so many fools in the world. If it weren't for her not wanting to complicate matters, she really wanted to slap this fool's ugly face with the sole of her shoe. Not far away, with a faint smile, Zhou Chong looked at Chen Shuai, who came back alone, and deliberately said with contempt, "It seems that not only your looks are bad, but you also don't have any inner qualities. You must feel bad coming back with your tail between your legs, right?" Chen Shuai flew into a rage out of shame and cursed in a low voice. "That stinky bitch is too damn arrogant. I would have already whipped her to death if she wasn't a woman. Forget it. You can go if you have the ability." Zhou Chong whistled proudly and then came to Han Qingwu's side, saying with a smile, "Thanks a lot, Belle." "Scram," replied Han Qingwu without raising her head. "Ugh." The smile on Zhou Chong's face froze and his brain couldn't react for a moment. Something's wrong. According to the script I've calculated, she should have asked me why I thanked her. How come? Zhou Chong was a very thick-skinned person. The embarrassment on his face only lasted for a few seconds before receding like the tide. He raised his hand to touch his nose and said with a dry smile, "It's fate that brought us together, Belle. Don't be so distant. Anyways, let me introduce myself. I'm Zhou Chong, a descendant of the Zhou family in Changxi. Can you do me the honor of having dinner together after you finish working out?" "I don't care if you're a nobody," said Han Qingwu coldly. "Get the hell out of here if you don't want to cause trouble. I have no interest in playboys like you." "You?" Never in his wildest dreams did Zhou Chong expect that he would be so ruthlessly rejected. It must be noted that in the past he relied on his handsome appearance, famous brands, and even the status of his Zhou family in Changxi to pick up girls. But today, what the hell is going on? Zhou Chong wanted to get angry, but he was a man who had tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex and rarely got angry at women. Therefore, he could only suppress his displeasure and walk toward Chen Shuai with a livid face. On the other side, Chen Shuai was overjoyed to see Zhou Chong come back with an ashen face. His anger toward Han Qingwu also dissipated by a lot. Instead, a sneer appeared on his monkey-like face as he teased, "Oh, young Master Zhou, why did you come back alone with your tail between your legs? Could it be that you, a self-proclaimed grandmaster of picking up chicks, was also chased away by that Belle?" Zhou Chong was so angry that his nose was crooked. In the past, he always hugged a Belle and came back to show off to Chen Shuai, only to see Chen Shuai's envious and jealous expression. But now he was teased and ridiculed by Chen Shuai, which made his anger toward Han Qingwu even more intense. With a livid face, he didn't talk to Chen Shuai. Instead, he turned his head and waved to a nearby attendant. After the attendant came to him, he said, "I'll give you a task. Help me keep an eye on that woman. Wait for her to finish working out, and see if she'll leave by herself or if she has a friend here. That's right, don't forget to secretly take some photos of her. It's useful to me." The attendant, who obviously knew Zhou Chong, quickly nodded and said, "Don't worry, young Master Zhou. I'll definitely help you handle it beautifully." Zhou Chong nodded and took out a business card and stuffed it into the attendant's hand. Then he turned around and left the fitness area. At the tea house, Tan Xiu was drinking tea and reading a book, enjoying a brief moment of tranquility. He didn't speak, and neither did Ji Mu. Although he was a bit bored, he still sat on the chair and silently tried to sense the qi inside his body. Ever since he obtained a cultivation technique, he had spent most of his time sensing the qi inside his body. He wanted to become an expert and a cultivator, so he was willing to work hard. In the blink of an eye, it was already 6 in the evening. Han Qingwu rushed over from the fitness area. Since there was a place to take a shower, she had already washed the sweat off her body and changed back to her original clothes. "Let's go," said Han Qinggu. Looking at the time, Tan Xiu asked, "How long will it take to get to the boxing venue?" "I don't know the specifics." Han Qinggu shook her head and said, "But it's already 6 now, and there are only 2 hours left before the match. As a fighter, I must arrive half an hour earlier." "There's no hurry," Ji Mu quickly said. "It's only a 40-minute drive from the Red House to the Emerald Resort. Miss Han, you've been training for half the afternoon, and you still have to compete in the evening. Do you want to eat something first? I've already told the dining area to prepare it half an hour ago, so we can go there and have a meal." Han Qinggu was a bit hesitant. "Let's go." Tan Xiu got up and said, "Let's go and have a meal, and then we'll have the strength to compete in the evening." At the dining area, Zhou Cheng and Chen Shui each hugged a beauty, eating and laughing. Because they were rejected in the afternoon, the two of them called over 2 girls they used to hang out with in the past to vent their frustrations. Suddenly, Zhou Cheng's cell phone rang. "Who is it?" Zhou Cheng picked up the phone and asked lightly. The voice of the attendant from the afternoon came from the phone. "Young Master Zhou, I'm the attendant of the fitness area, Little Lu. I'm doing what you asked me to do." That beauty went to the tea house after she finished working out. "I didn't dare to get too close, so I only saw her meeting with 2 men. She's now rushing to the dining area." "Got it. I'll reward you later." Zhou Cheng replied indifferently and immediately hung up the phone. A chilling light flashed in his eyes as he pushed the woman in his arms and said, "You eat first. I'll go out and make a call." "Got it." Chen Shui nodded. Suddenly, his expression moved and he hurriedly asked, "Zhou Cheng, did the attendant in the afternoon give you a reply? Remember to call me if there's a good show." Chen Shui hesitated for a moment and said, "Let's go together then. I want to see who has the ability to subdue that stinky woman." Chapter 704. In the dining area, both sides of the antique corridor were decorated with red lanterns. The customers coming and going indicated that the business here was very good. The air was filled with the faint fragrance of wine and dishes, arousing the craving of many customers. Tan Xiu and Han Qinggu were not familiar with this place, so Ji Mu led the way. While walking, Ji Mu introduced the specific situation of the Red Pavilion to them. Only then did they understand why the business here was so good. The Red Pavilion's grade was not high, but it was not low either. The middle-class customers liked to come here to spend their money. Even those rich people liked to come here for leisure and entertainment, due to the variety of programs here. Private Room 0066. After arriving with the two, Jimu pushed the door and said, "Brother Tang, Miss Han, please go inside and wait for a while. I'll arrange something and we'll be back soon." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded. The antique private room had an area of more than 20 square meters. Aside from tables and chairs, there were also 2 single sofas and a tea table in the corner. Less than 2 minutes after Tan Xiu and Han Qinggu sat on the sofa, the door was pushed open from the outside. "I heard the feng shui of private room 0066 is good. Let's have dinner here today." With a smile on his face, Zhou Cheng pushed the door and entered. The moment he saw Han Qinggu and Tan Xiu sitting on the sofa in the corner, he immediately pretended to be surprised and said, "It's so strange. How come there are people inside? Also, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. To think that I bumped into this woman who doesn't give me face." Chen Shui observed Tan Xiu for 3 seconds and found that he didn't know him. He immediately felt relieved and smilingly said, "I thought that a cold and arrogant chick would accompany some kind of amazing man. Never thought that he would be a teenager. Could it be that it's a popular trend nowadays for old cows to eat young grass? Why would they find such a pretty boy to dote on?" Zhou Cheng suppressed his anger and raised his hand to touch his chin. He let out a hollow laugh and said, "You can't judge a book by its cover these days. She looks like a pure and clean fairy, but who knows if she has any special fetishes. What are you two doing here? Did you book this private room? If you aren't, get lost. If you are, I'll contact the front desk and get you a different room." Tan Xiu frowned slightly. He looked at Han Qinggu and asked, "You know him?" Han Qinggu said. A hooligan who tried to hit on me. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, since they provoked you, throw these two fools out quickly. A smile appeared on Han Qingwu's cold face. Tan Xiu used two idiots to describe them, and she felt that it was really appropriate. After standing up, Han Qingwu asked directly, did you guys leave on your own? Or should I throw you out? Zhou Chong sneered at Han Qingwu, then looked at Tan Xiu and said, kid, be more polite with your words. In Changxi City, there aren't many people who dare to provoke me, Zhou Chong. Noisy. Tan Xiu didn't even bother to look at them anymore. Han Qingwu strode forward and grabbed Zhou Chong's and Chen Shuai's collars lightning fast. She dashed outside and directly threw them out of the door like throwing garbage. BM. The door was closed from the inside by Han Qingwu. She then walked back to the sofa and smilingly said, the world is peaceful now. Outside the door, Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai were dizzy from the fall and only managed to crawl up after a while. The battered and exhausted Zhou Chong had a humiliated expression on his face as he fiercely kicked the door of the private room open. Just as he was about to rush in, a figure appeared a few meters away from him. As the figure's footsteps suddenly quickened, Jimu directly grabbed Zhou Chong's shoulder and forcefully pulled him back, throwing Zhou Chong a few meters away before he fell heavily on the ground. Fuck. Zhou Chong was furious and the pain in his body made him furious. He crawled up quickly this time and cursed loudly, ready to fight back. At the side, Chen Shuai's heart sank after he saw Jimu. He heard Zhou Chong's cursing and saw that he wanted to fight. He immediately rushed to Zhou Chong's front and blocked him. He directly covered Zhou Chong's mouth with his hand and then turned his head to call out, Brother Ji, I didn't expect it to be you. Zhou Chong drank a bit too much today and is acting crazy. With a gloomy face, Jimu looked at Zhou Chong, who gradually stopped struggling and sneered. Drinking too much and acting crazy, huh? You want to vent your anger on me? Zhou Chong was also dumbfounded at this moment. Never did he expect that the one who just threw him out was Jimu. He secretly regretted the foul language he just cursed. His expression quickly changed and he apologized in a low voice. I didn't know it was you just now, Brother Ji. It's just that the man and woman in this private room are too abominable. They even threw us out. You're a great person, so please forgive me. A man and a woman? Threw them out? Jimu's heart thumped. He stepped forward to grab Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai's shoulders and pulled them into the private room. Upon seeing Tan Xiu and Han Qingwu sitting on the sofa, he closed the door with his foot and released them, slapping their faces a few times. Brother Ji, Zhou Chong was slapped silly. He raised his hand to touch his burning face with disbelief in his eyes. Chen Shuai was also slapped silly. He looked at Jimu in a daze, but he didn't dare to resist. Their families were big and powerful, and they were famous young masters of Changxi City. But comparing their families with the Ji family was like comparing the earth to the heavens. They were not on the same level at all. After slapping them, Jimu no longer paid attention to them. He cautiously looked at Tan Xiu and Han Qingwu and asked, Brother Tang, Miss Han, did these two bastards provoke you? Don't be so angry at such a young age. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, these two brats may have foul mouths, but they didn't do anything excessive. They didn't provoke me, but they failed to pursue Han Qingwu, so they flew into a rage out of shame and wanted to put on airs. Jimu immediately understood. He was so angry that his 7 orifices were about to emit smoke. Han Qingwu was his honored guest, and she was very likely to be a cultivator. Yet Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai, who were full of women, even dared to provoke her. Weren't they courting death? As he thought up to there, he directly turned around and slapped their faces a few more times. Then he turned to Han Qingwu and asked, Miss Han, you're my honored guest, yet these two bastards are pestering you. It's like slapping my face. If you don't want to deal with them yourself, I'll break their legs to teach them a lesson. Jimu. Brother Ji. Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai's complexion drastically changed as they hurriedly called out. At this moment, they finally realized that whether it was Han Qingwu, whom they used to make a bet to strike up a conversation, or that young man, none of them were good people. Even Jimu had to be cautious in front of them, which made them realize that they had poked the hornet's nest today and provoked a big trouble. Han Qingwu was not the kind of woman who wouldn't forgive others. She looked at Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai, who had been slapped 6 or 7 times, and waved her hand in disgust and said, "Forget it. Just make these 2 bastards get the hell out of here. Let's hurry up and eat, lest we delay important things." "All right." Jimu raised his hand and slapped their heads again. Then he snappily cursed, "You 2 bastards. Can't you cause less trouble in the future? How old are you? Why don't you find a wife and live a peaceful life at home? Get the hell out of here. Don't let me see you doing bad things again, else I'll beat you to death." Yes. We'll get the hell out of here. I'm really sorry, Brother Ji. Miss Han, I'm really sorry. We'll get the hell out of here. Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai felt as though they had been pardoned. They nodded and bowed before running away. They couldn't afford to provoke someone who could make Jimu pay attention to them. Since the other party didn't pursue this matter, they didn't want to be cleaned up. Revenge? What a joke. What could they do to retaliate? Could it be that they could only helplessly send themselves to be abused? The 2 of them ran out of the dining area in one breath and then stopped panting. Chen Shuai rubbed his burning face and said with a bitter expression, "Damn it, I really didn't check the almanac when I went out today. How could I provoke such a ruthless bastard? Even Jimu has to be so careful. What's the origin of these 2 guys?" Zhou Chong's expression was a bit gloomy, but he was somewhat helpless. Upon hearing Chen Shuai's words, he helplessly said, "He's definitely not from our Changshi, else we would definitely know him. He's a dragon crossing the river, and one with a very deep background." "Don't you have a photo of that woman?" Chen Shuai suddenly said. "How about asking someone to inquire about it?" Zhou Chong hesitated for a moment before he nodded silently and said, "I'll ask someone to inquire about it when I go back tonight. We've lost our face today. Let's go. Let's skip dinner." Chen Shuai nodded and walked a few steps with Zhou Chong. Then he suddenly asked, "Are we still going to watch the underground fighting match tonight?" "Yeah, we'll go," said Zhou Chong without hesitation. "But let's find a place to take a bath and change our clothes first. Also, we'll go and get rid of the bad luck." "All right." Inside the private room 0066. "Miss Han, I know those 2 guys." Jimu forced a wry smile and said, "They're not bad in nature. It's just that they grew up with a golden spoon in their mouths, and were spoiled by their families, thus developing their arrogant and domineering personalities. You can rest assured that I'll teach them a good lesson later. I guarantee that they won't run amok again." Han Qingwu didn't take it seriously at all, so she said with a smile, "It's nothing. I'll clean them up if they really go too far." Jimu quickly glanced at Tan Xiao and then said with a smile, "Miss Han is broad-minded and a heroine. Let's go to the table. The dishes will be delivered soon." "That's right, I didn't order any wine since Miss Han has a match tonight." "I'll drink." Han Qingwu waved her hand and said, "Wine is a poison to the intestines, so drink as little as you can," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "Let's eat first. Let's eat quickly and not delay the business." "All right." Jimu found that Tan Xiao didn't have the slightest trace of a silk pants aura from Tan Xiao. Mature, steady, and unfathomable. This was his evaluation of Tan Xiao. Chapter 705. After a simple dinner, the trio rushed to the venue of the underground fighting tournament. Han Qingwu didn't want her good sister to know that she was going to participate in the underground fighting tournament, so she directly turned off her mobile phone. "How many matches will there be in the finals?" Sitting in the back seat, Tan Xiao glanced at Han Qingwu and asked, "There will be 2 matches. The first one will be the semi-finals, and the last one will be the championship," answered Han Qingwu. Tan Xiao nodded and said, "Pay attention during the match. Just admit defeat if you can't beat them. Don't throw your life away in the ring for such a trivial match." "I know." Although Han Qingwu replied in such a way, she secretly made up her mind to not lose the match even if she had to risk her life. She couldn't let Tan Xiao despise her. Ji Mu, who was the driver, was surprised and asked, "Miss Han, are you going to participate in the underground fighting tournament? You're also going to be one of the top 4 powerhouses from thousands of underground fighters in the country? Yeah. Han Qinggu replied casually with an indifferent expression. Ji Mu was somewhat shocked. This was his first time seeing Han Qinggu. He originally thought that Han Qinggu was just a weak and delicate young woman. He didn't expect that such a terrifying strength was hidden under her delicate appearance. However, after recalling Tan Xiu's identity and the fact that he personally accompanied Han Qinggu, Ji Mu felt relieved. Perhaps Han Qinggu was also a cultivator. Realizing this, Ji Mu suddenly felt that his decision today was very wise. If he could maintain a good relationship with Tan Xiu and smoothly squeeze into his circle, it would definitely bring him a lot of unexpected benefits. It would be better to Tan Xiu had promised to give him a big gift when he got married. Ji Mu suddenly felt warm inside as he thought of that big gift, and was looking forward to it. In the southern suburbs of Changxi City, the Emerald Resort, which was located on the side of a mountain and a river, had been decorated with countless colorful lights. The resort covered a large area and had absolute privacy, so it didn't receive ordinary guests. Anyone who wanted to come here for a leisure vacation must be recommended by more than 2 members, and their total assets must not be less than 20 million yuan. The security is pretty good. When the car arrived at the entrance of the Emerald Resort, Tan Xiu couldn't help but exclaim after observing through the window. More than 40 high-spirited security guards in black suits were directing the incoming vehicles in an orderly manner. The guests who got off the car passed the security check and were brought in by the sightseeing cars. In the dark, there were at least dozens of experts who were good at hiding their tracks, quietly observing the situation. Tan Xiu estimated that if he brought Mo Au and the others with him to force their way through, it would probably take some effort for them to break through. Suddenly, Tan Xiu's expression changed. He glanced sideways and found that Mo Au had already appeared outside the car door. "Get off!" Tan Xiu nudged Han Qinggu and pushed the car door open. Soon, the 4 of them arrived in front of the gate guarded by dozens of burly men. An energetic white-haired old man in a tang suit smiled and said, "Welcome everyone. Please show me your identification." Han Qinggu took out a black card and indifferently said, "I'm participating in the match tonight. They are my friends." The white-haired old man stared blankly and looked surprised. He didn't expect that there would be such a beautiful and young woman among the top 4 of the National Underground Boxing Tournament. The black card was proved to be genuine after the instrument's inspection. He immediately said, "You're indeed a contestant, but you can only bring 2 people with you at most according to the rules of the Underground Boxing Tournament." Ji Mu took out a gold and silver card and lightly said, "I'm carrying it myself." The white-haired old man let out a faint smile and said, "Young Master Ji is a gold card member of our Emerald Resort, so he can naturally enter. The 4 of you, please get on the car. The sightseeing car will take you to the boxing venue." The Emerald Resort occupied a large area. The sightseeing car took the 3 of them in a circle, and took 7 to 8 minutes before stopping in front of a 3-story villa. In front of the door, dozens of beautiful girls in white dresses with long, soft hair lined up in a neat line, quietly waiting. One of the girls walked out from the line, and quickly came to the front of the 3, saying, "Good evening, 3 distinguished guests. Welcome to the Emerald Resort. I'm Xiaoying. May I ask if the 3 of you are here to watch the boxing match?" "Yes." Tan Xiu nodded. "Please come with me," Xiaoying said with a smile. Under her lead, the 3 of them came to the villa's hall. After entering the elevator, Xiaoying pressed the button, and the elevator descended more than 20 meters. As the elevator door opened, Xiaoying smiled and introduced, "The boxing match will be held underground. There's a very large underground space here, and the arena and spectator seats have been set up. The 3 of you, please come with me. I'll take you to get your numbers first, and then send you to the spectator seats." "I'm not here to watch the match. I'm here to participate in it," said Han Qinggu. "The organizer should have notified you in advance. You're here to participate in the match?" Xiaoying was startled. She looked at Han Qinggu with a serious expression, and saw Han Qinggu take out a black card. She immediately said with some apprehension, "Hello, Mississippi. I'll immediately send you to the backstage." Our supervisor has been waiting backstage for a long time. After saying that, she turned to Tan Xiao and Ji Mu and said, Gentlemen, can you wait for a while? I'll immediately come back to pick you up after sending this young lady there. All right. Tan Xiao nodded. After looking at Han Qinggu, he slightly hesitated and said, Remember my words. Fight if you can win, and admit defeat if you can't. You've just started cultivating, so it won't be shameful even if you lose. How about this? If you lose, I'll give you a present, but if you win, I'll give you nothing. Han Qinggu looked at Tan Xiao with a dumbfounded expression. She immediately rolled her eyes at him and snappily said, Do you really want me to lose? Let's change it. You'll get a gift if you win, but nothing if you lose. After she reacted, she immediately understood Tan Xiao's intention. Tan Xiao was afraid that she would risk her life in the ring, so he deliberately brought up the gift. This was his way of showing his concern for her. Han Qinggu left with Xiaoying, but her heart was warm. She made up her mind that no matter how simple it would be, she must win tonight's match and win the championship of the finals. At this moment, dozens of people were sitting in the auditorium in the underground space. In the last row, there was a big fatty with an oily face and a cigar in his mouth, talking to a thin middle-aged man next to him. Xueqing, I'm not bragging. If I were to participate in this year's underground boxing tournament, even if I can't win the championship, it wouldn't be a problem for me to get the second place. Don't look at me getting fatter and fatter. My body is still very flexible. Hey Fatty Lee, can you stop bragging? If you said this more than a decade ago, I might have believed some of it. But now I heard that you went to Shuangqing Province's Star City last year to find Chen Jizhong for a duel, right? And the result? You got beaten to the point that you looked for your teeth all over the floor. Now, many of your old friends are laughing at you. Fuck, which big mouth spread that news? Motherfucker. Good news doesn't go out, but bad news spreads far and wide. If it weren't for Chen Jizhong having a good master, I would have been. Forget it, I won't say it. Just thinking about it makes my stomach full of grievances. You're still feeling wronged? I think your skin is hurting. But you said that Chen Jizhong has a good master? Who is it? You want to know? Yeah. I won't tell you even if I want to know. You dare to laugh at me, Li Laoshan? I'll kill you. Fuck. While the two were chatting, Li Laoshan's proud expression suddenly froze. Immediately after, his fat body quickly stood up and dashed toward the hall's door under the dumbfounded eyes of his companions. This Fatty Lee is so fat, yet he's still so flexible? The thin middle-aged man gulped down his saliva and muttered in disbelief. When Li Laoshan was still more than 10 meters away from Tan Xiao, he waved his palm leaf-sized palm and shouted, Brother Tang, over here. Ha ha ha, it's a small world. We brothers are really fated to meet each other. Upon hearing the shout and seeing Li Laoshan running over, Tan Xiao couldn't help but burst into laughter. He had forgotten that Li Laoshan was also a martial artist, and this kind of black market boxing was the most attractive to him. Old brother Li, I haven't seen you for a few months. Have you put on weight again? Li Laoshan and Tan Xiao hugged each other. After releasing, he laughed aloud and said, I can't help it. Your old brother has no choice but to drink cold water. Fortunately, my old waist is still good, else I wouldn't even dare to drink cold water. Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he rolled his eyes at him. Old waist is good? If it's not, then I'll become a eunuch. Li Laoshan glanced at Ji Mu next to Tan Xiao and smilingly said, Is this your friend Brother Tang? Tan Xiao nodded and said, He's Ji Mu, a kid from the Ji family in Changxi City. Ji Mu, this is Li Laoshan, old brother Li. Hello old brother Li, greeted Ji Mu quickly. You're a kid from the Ji family. Not bad, said Li Laoshan with a smile. Your Ji family's Ji Chunlei and I have a bit of friendship. We had a fight more than 20 years ago and later joined hands to fight someone else. It can be said that our friendship was forged through fighting. Ji Chunlei? Ji Mu shuddered inwardly. Wasn't that his father? In a flash, his view of Li Laoshan's identity was a bit higher. It must be noted that his father was an easygoing person on the surface, but he was very arrogant inside. Li Laoshan's identity was definitely not simple for him to be able to forge a friendship with him through fighting. At the side, Xiaoying, who had just returned from sending off Han Qinggu, said, "Gentlemen, would you like me to send you to your seats first, and then you can chat?" Li Laoshan looked at the card in Tan Xiu's hand. He took it and threw it back to Xiaoying, saying, "My card is 128. Help them change their seats and let them sit next to me." This, Xiaoying hesitated for a moment before nodding. She took Tan Xiu's and Ji Mu's cards and quickly ran outside. Li Laoshan hugged Tan Xiu's shoulder and enthusiastically led him and Ji Mu to the back row. He then introduced his friend to Tan Xiu, Chu Xuecheng. He was the big boss of the Beigong group and the leader of the northern machinery field. He usually kept a low profile, but his wealth was no less than Li Laoshan's. "It's the end of the month. I'm asking for a monthly vote to support me. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."